Okay, welcome everybody. We'll be getting started here in just a moment. Hey everybody, let's do a sound check. Welcome to the City Council September 21st, 2021 workshop. In accordance with Governor Inslee's Order 20-28-152 regarding the OPMA remains in effect. It requires public meetings and hearings to be held remotely with the option of also holding an in-person component to a public meeting or hearing if certain conditions are met. At the present time, the City of Liberty Lake has determined not to hold an in-person component to a public meeting or hearing. So we're going to do a quick roll call. We've got Mayor Pro Tem Kennedy and myself in chambers. So the rest of the council members take a look as they come in here. Let me do a quick roll call. Phil, I have you on here twice, which is kind of strange. All right, Councilmember Kurtz.
Present.
Collier.
Here.
Councilmember Langford.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Kennedy.
Present.
Councilmember Severs.
Present.
Do you have your video on?
I do not have video on.
Okay, so is that your number ending 5953?
Correct.
I'll move you up here so I can recognize that. Councilmember Dunn? You're unmuted, I believe. Councilmember Dunn? I see him on here, I'm just not hearing him. We will check back with him. And Councilmember Garcia, I see you. Can you hear us? You're on mute. Let's make sure we can hear you. You're still on mute.
Oh, got it. So our Wi-Fi is down, but I'm here.
Okay, now we can hear you. Great. Councilmember Dunn, have you been able to get your audio?
Hey, good afternoon. Sorry for the delay.
Perfect. No, it's okay. I just want to make sure. There you are. I'm trying to get everybody's video up on the same line here so I can recognize everybody properly. Okay, great. Well, welcome to our workshop for the September 21st, as I said. We have two workshops scheduled for tonight. First is a review of the hopefully close to final edits of the council rules and procedures. And then we have the 2022 capital facilities plan discussion. Todd, do you have the rules of procedure to bring up so we can go through those? Thank you. Okay, a lot of these we've already been through, so I'll be skipping a lot. You will see that I added notes. Oh, that's small. Thank you. I've added some notes to the side panel for further clarification or questions. So, you can go ahead and scroll through this page. Nothing new there. Go ahead to the next one. Okay, I just added, if you want to stop there, Todd, we just added a note here that when we update the document, and we'll get to this section a little bit later, instead of attendance via speakerphone, to change attendance remotely. Okay, keep on going, Todd. And then another edit to the table of contents to possibly update this from out of order comments to disruptive conduct based on some meetings that we had previously in the year. Okay, go ahead, Todd. All right, there's nothing new on this top section, I gotta move this a little bit closer. Referring to Robert's Rules of Order, in section 1.2, I did do some further digging, with regards to, after, City Attorney Sean Bouts had replied to us on a couple of our questions with regards to disorderly conduct in the meetings and whatnot. And there are a couple of RCWs that I've added here, for reference with regards to, what we can do if a member is disruptive with regards to removing somebody from the meeting or, recessing the meeting and, or adjourning. So if there's no questions on that section, we'll keep going. Oh, Councilmember Langford. You're on mute.
Yeah, you're very sketchy when you talk. You're in and out, cutting out in.
Well, okay, so it may be the mask. So Councilmember, Mayor Pro Tem Kennedy and I are about 8 feet apart, so I'm gonna go ahead and take my mask off, if that's better. Thank you for pointing that out, I appreciate it. Okay, so any questions on 1.2, the adjustments we made by putting in the RCWs? Not seeing any, we'll go ahead, Todd. That's good. Yeah, there was just a small thing at the bottom here. At the bottom, the footer of the page, I just added, the further clarification on my part after we had, the updates done by city clerk. Go ahead to the next page. Okay, go ahead and stop. Yeah, I'm just trying to remind myself what was added. So some comments that I added to the right under section 1.5, you'll see we had made the note about updating the COVID policy. I did make a note there about this being covered during by Governor Inslee's order. Excuse me. And so my thought was that we keep those references out on this iteration as we continue through COVID. We'll continue just adjusting our meetings for state or federal orders, whichever apply. And then if we need to make some of that permanent, then we can do that. Yeah, any questions or concerns about that? No. Okay, not seeing any. Nothing else on that page is new. If you want to go ahead, Todd. Okay, stop for just a second. I did add, as I was going through this document thoroughly again, I lost track of how many times, this
Get down.
section under A that says rare occasion. When we did the call-in by phone, it was really hard sometimes to hear or be heard, and you didn't have access to what was being presented in chambers. And so for that reason, from my recollection, we put in this ordinance that remote attendance, A, was on a rare occasion, and B, was only for a particular agenda item. Wanted to see if the council had any objection to removing the references to only be attending remotely for a specific agenda item. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would object to that. I think the motivation should be for council members to be there for the entire meeting. Am I on?
Yeah, I just need to be a little closer. So if I just make sure I heard you right, you do not object to removing the particular.
Not at all.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure I understood correctly. Any other comments on that? Okay, next page. Okay, a couple more references to the particular agenda item. Those were the only additional notes that I made down to C. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Draw your attention on page 3C, notification. So it conforms with the rest of the comments we have in here. If the council member wishes to attend a council meeting, remotely, the council member should contact the mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, or administrator, just to mirror where we have it elsewhere.
Just make sure your mic's on. For some reason, it doesn't. There you are. Okay.
Am I on?
Yes, it just wasn't coming across very well.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Okay, got it. Yes,
Yes, you're both still cutting in and out. Could we go back to that attendance by remote? On the last page,
previous page or this page?
Yeah.
Page 2.
previous.
There you go. Okay. Is there a particular part you want to address?
Yeah, I'm trying to justify section A. The rare occasion, not the rule, and we're limiting it to 2 times per year per council members. Applying that against our COVID.
Yeah, so that's kind of why I mentioned, we had
Now,
said earlier
just
in the
about
notes that,
I was not able to hear Odin Langford.
Either.
yeah, you were cutting out that time. I don't know what our issues are.
Right.
And Madam Mayor, I can hear you just fine, and I can hear you, Mr. Kennedy, just fine too, on this way. So I'm not sure where the internet problem is.
Thank you.
For clarification, is there anything in this section asserting a limit of 2 times? 2 times?
Well, back when this change was put in, again, it was a time when the technology wasn't as good. Like I said, you could sometimes barely be heard or hear, and you didn't have access really to anything that was being presented in chambers. So absolutely, if you guys want to entertain modifying that section to be more lenient, give me your suggestions and we can work that in.
I'd suggest that we don't need to refer to a limit to the number of times the remote attendance is possible. That's a function beyond our control. The governor's order as an example.
Councilmember Kurtz.
And I would support Councilmember Dunn removing the specificity of a limitation to a number of year. I think we're headed into more of a hybrid model of things, and I would support that.
This is Councilmember Severs. I'd also support it, but we don't need a specific limitation.
Any
This is
other comments? I've got this.
Councilmember Garcia, I also support Councilmember Dunn's recommendation.
Thank you. Yeah, Councilmember Garcia, it looks like we have lost your video, so I apologize if I missed you. Just kind of just jump in and gain my attention if you could.
Will do. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so no any further comments on that. We will make that additional adjustment. Okay, Todd, if you could go back to where we were on the next page. So Mayor Pro Tem mentioned in section C, updating the reference to who to notify with regards to remote attendance. I think we're good there otherwise. Section 1.6, Todd, we have no additional changes there from previous. Go ahead to the next page. Okay, and another note that I put here. Yeah, there was no, for 1.7, there were no additional changes. Kyle, this is more for you, an internal question. This refers to the Journal of Proceedings. Do we actually keep a physical book, or are they all electronic at this point?
A combination of both. So these are kept on our shared drive, as well as physical copies that we keep at City Hall that do outline attendance of council members.
Well, it's the Journal of Proceedings as a total, I believe. So is there, actually, I guess I'll just put this back to you, if you can review that, and if there's any updates from a procedural standpoint, from the clerk's position, and who reports into you, and just let us know, and we can update that to what really, actually happens. Councilmember Dunn, I saw your hand up.
Suggested a change in the wording rather than a book, just the systems of record. The city has at its tips right now, and then also we're thinking of other systems that accommodate this task.
Thank you for your input. Kyle, if you could just kind of review that, and if you could provide some the updated wording for that, I'd appreciate it.
Certainly, yep.
2.1, no additional changes. Special meetings, I had a comment. There were 2 items in there that we asked for the city attorney to weigh in on. I just updated that there were, he didn't see any issue with either of those. So we'll go ahead, unless there's further comments on 2.2, we'll go ahead to the next section with a note. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to bring our attention back to 2.2. Am I coming through okay? Can I be heard now?
Yes.
On 2.2, I realized that our attorney said he did not see that there was a challenge there. I still see that there's a challenge there, and I caution all the council members that we have to, this is one area I think that could be very gray, that we have to be careful in the future, because I think we can get ourselves between the rock and the hard place when we're talking among ourselves to try to get a subject up and try to find 3 individuals to bring it forward. We have to use discretion when we're trying to get something accomplished, you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Todd, if you can go to the next page, please. I have it empty now. Where's my empty? Like I don't think I had an additional note there, I just didn't delete it. Then I've got an additional comment 12. I did add the reference, so to the code of ethics, we talked about making that maybe an attachment.
Where is that?
The bottom, the last paragraph in red under 2.5.
Oh, 2.5, thank you.
Sorry, I was looking on the screen. Instead of adding the code of ethics to the ordinance, reference the most recently approved version of the code of ethics. So that way we don't have to update this every time we update the code of ethics. I don't know if anybody has any questions or concerns about that. We can just jump forward to the next comment.
Just to clarify, sorry, the inference
Yeah.
here is to refer to our code of ethics, which is ordinance 234. We're not referring to a version of 234. We're just referring to 234.
I
I'm trying to.
I added under the then current revision of ordinance 234.
Great.
That covers whatever
Thanks.
the currently approved one is. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Todd. All right, section, if we had, oh, can you go back up before it jumped? Okay, go ahead and stop there just in case it jumps. I did propose some adjustments here on 4.1G with regards to the process on how we do how we vote on the proclamations and things like that. The upcoming meetings and events actually happen during a different section of the agenda, so I'd like I was proposing to remove that and put it, because that usually happens under the reports, either under city administrator or mayor and council reports. And then the second piece of that, there was a suggestion to have the proclamations available 3 weeks ahead of time. Sometimes we don't get that much heads up. I was hoping for a compromise for a week before the meeting, if everybody's okay with that. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I had this conversation the other day with Katie when I was looking at that. And it said in there that apparently I had said, which I don't recall this, as language to submit proclamation 3 weeks in advance. I was gonna ask the council, do we need 3 weeks? I don't recall that being brought up.
That sounds like we're on the same page, so if there's no objections to 1 week in advance, Councilmember Kurtz?
I see that there's a strike through on the language about support for council to vote or support or not support a proclamation. Did we strike that? I thought we were adding that at some point, and so I'm.
I'll review, I thought we were adding that too, let me make sure we didn't
Okay.
move that to a different section. Because
Okay.
this is more the order of business and not how the business is happening under this section 4.1.
Okay, and that might be why the 3-week piece came in here, or the time frame, because I think if we were going to vote on whether to support it, we would need that in advance of, I don't know if we would do that in the same meeting that the proclamation was on the agenda, if that makes sense.
Well, since we've kind of put this into practice, we've had the vote immediately prior to the proclamation.
Okay,
And again, this section 4.1 is more the order of the meeting versus the process of the meeting. So some of this ordinance has been around a while and it got a little jumbled at points where we were mixing those things. So we're trying to make sure we get that part cleaned up as well. All right, if you could go to the next section, Todd, with the notes. Okay, comment CK 15, just updated the procedure under ordinances to match the resolution process above.
Which one are you on, Mayor?
4.1, do you have it where it prints the notes out on the side?
I have it right here.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, okay, I can't tell what version, what you thought. Okay, yeah, we're on 4.10 ordinances.
Yes.
So I just clarified, I matched the language between the resolutions and the ordinance with regards to the order, because it didn't have anything in there about a motion, a second, and that kind of thing. So it went into detail on ordinance, so I matched the detail.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Councilmember Follier.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. If you could scroll back to 4.1I, just a little bit further up. Right there, workshop discussions. I'd like to make a suggestion that we put a time limit on our workshop discussions.
For the entire period or per discussion, just for clarification?
For workshop discussions.
All right, what, are you proposing, 30 minutes?
Sure,
20?
whatever the council would like, but I'd start with 30 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. So looking for further discussion on that from the council about limiting each workshop topic during the regular meeting, not during our 6 p.m. where we are now, but during the regular meeting to 30 minutes each. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the Councilman Floyd bringing that up. I'm not comfortable with that. We don't have a time frame on anything that's in their presentations. And one thing I feel is critical is that anything that the council is going to be involved with in discussion, whatever time it takes, that's what's needed. That's what's needed. The citizens need to be aware that we're not under a time frame to rush things through. If it takes some time to discuss something, then I think that is what is necessary. The council we can control ourselves. If we feel it's running too long, we can bring something up, or the mayor certainly can.
Any other input? Councilmember Dunn?
Yeah, I kind of agree that the chair in this case has the discretion to recognize if this is something that can be tabled and brought up in a subsequent meeting. Otherwise, yeah, allow the control of that meeting at the time that it's taking place. That's my suggestion.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Garcia?
I concur with both Councilmember Dunn and Kennedy. If we put a time frame, we are somehow avoiding the comments that might, or the understanding that might be necessary for the constituents.
Thank you. Councilmember Severs?
Yeah, I just want to agree with Councilmember Kennedy and what's been said by Councilmember Garcia and Dunn.
Thank you. And Councilmember Langford, did we lose him? Looks like we may have lost Councilmember Langford. Oh, there you are. Sorry, Councilmember Langford, you somehow jumped to the bottom of my screen. My apologies. Did you have anything you wanted to add on this discussion?
No, I can see both sides of the coin. Sometimes we seem to cover one word for 30 minutes, okay? And I do think that somebody ought to have the right to step in and say, you know, we need to move on. So at this time, I'm for the chair being able to make those decisions. However, if we find out through practice that it's not being done, I think we should reserve the right to come back and add actual time limits to this, just for the sake of the meeting, not so much to stifle people's input, but if staff or council has anything to say about a particular workshop meeting, they ought to be able to say it in 15 minutes or less. Okay, so, but that's just my thought for right now. I'm willing to go along with the majority to see how it works.
So it sounds like we will be leaving the time limit on the workshop link out to be, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Also on 4.1I, I noticed if you go to the next page where it says, talks about presenting the time, and it was been crossed out, final action is neither expected nor anticipated on workshop topics. So we have the uniformity at our 6 o'clock meetings. It does say in there that yes, we can make decisions on things we're discussing there. I believe the same type of verbiage has to be on 4.1 when it comes to workshops. The council does have the authority to make decisions, votes, second, discussion. Once again, uniformity between the 6 o'clock meeting and 7 when it comes to workshops. Thank you.
Well, yeah, that's what, this was redlined out, so we'll make sure that the 6 o'clock and this one match by taking that wording out that allows possible action.
No, excuse me, that it does allow.
Right, that's, so the wording that was in there, final action is neither expected nor anticipated on workshop topics, it's redlined out.
Right, but it needs to have some verbiage in there that yes, we can make decision can be made during those meetings, those workshops.
So just, you're not happy with just taking that piece out?
No, I think it specifically has to, because we have it in the 6 o'clock, that decisions can be made in our workshops.
Council would like to weigh in? Councilmember Dunn.
I'm trying to navigate if there's a change suggested to what's shown on the screen.
Yeah, so it sounds like Mayor Pro Tem is looking to, so we've redlined out, final action is neither expected nor anticipated on workshop topics. But Mayor Pro Tem, I believe, is asking to add verbiage around that action may be taken at a workshop.
I guess I'd refer procedurally, a motion can be taken at nearly any time during the meeting. I don't think it needs to be reasserted in language in this section.
Mayor, I think that if we have that in the verbiage on one section, it either needs to be taken out of both or included in both, just for continuity.
But we'll go back and double check that we don't have anything in here about the 6 o'clock workshop except for when it occurs. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I agree with what the council is saying, is that what we have is we either need the uniformity that it is in there or it is not on it, because Councilman Dunn is absolutely right. Anytime we can make a motion, second, discussion, and make a decision. What has happened in the past, since I've been on the council at different times, staff has said, you cannot make decisions at this time. In reality, we can't. So the idea was, so there would be clarity there, is to put the verbiage that yes, may not be expected, but a decision can be made.
we'll take a look at that, and like I said, we'll just double check any language we have around the 6 p.m. so that they are uniform, but I don't believe that's specifically in there, but it is a 20-some page document, so I may be wrong. We'll take another look at that.
Thank you.
All right, Todd, if you can go ahead to the next note. Oh, yeah, I already talked about that one. Go ahead to the next page. And stop. Oh, this is just another cleanup with regards to language being parallel on that one. Number 17, I do have in here a note about further discussion. I know there's been discussion in the past and a specific ask to keep note of, on every vote, specifically who is voting on which way on every vote, and keep a log of that. Kyle, I know you and Ann had talked about that when this first came up, and it didn't sound like there was a real efficient way to do that. Can you maybe bring us up to speed on that?
So yeah, we've looked at that. We've looked at what a couple other entities have done and what Spokane Valley has done. They do have considerably more resources to track these type of things, but we have, there are some applications out there that we have looked at. The one that Spokane uses escapes me, but I think we had decided that we liked the look of that one. And so we were just in kind of a discovery phase on different platforms and how to implement those when Ann submitted her notice.
All right, so, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem, before I make a comment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know this subject's come up in the past quite often to have recorded votes and stuff, and it was within our last meeting and the meeting before, Councilman Dunn made a very good point, is that we need to put in there that we have recorded votes so the citizens can see exactly what we vote on and not. So my proposal would be this, is that we put the verbiage in there now. We might not have the technology, but at least we have the verbiage. Then it's taken care of when we do have the technology.
But if we have it in there, no way to do it at this point, are we violating our own ordinance?
No?
Playing devil's advocate here. Try to get the points out, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. No, we're adjusting.
Go ahead, Councilmember Dunn.
I'd say actually, no, this is actually the intentions of the city's council. We look for the staff to be able to support and act on it.
I agree.
I didn't hear that, I'm sorry.
So are you
I'm sorry.
looking to leave it in to get there, Dan, just to clarify?
Yeah, the intention of having this language in a procedural document is this is the intentions of the city's council. It's now to the staff to try and enact that. So technical and approach, that's going to be the staff's resolution of how to deliver. We're just saying this is what we'd like to have. So.
Right.
So are there any objections to leaving that in, and we'll continue to get updates as we go forward with regards to what applications we might be able to put in place to better track this more efficiently?
Yeah, I just volley that, spreadsheets are really helpful and easy. A row is an action, a column is a vote. But if we need to go buy software, we can do that too.
Well, there may be something, I know Kyle and Ann had looked a little bit to see what Granicus could provide for us. So we'll take that action and continue to follow up.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. What I'm looking for is clarification here. I believe I understand where everybody wants to go. I feel wants to go with this. Is that the understanding is we will have in here that all votes, where there is a motion, second, discussion, that those votes will be recorded as time goes on, even though we don't have the technology now. Am I hearing that correct, Council?
But we don't have the technology versus if it's not a spreadsheet.
Is that what I'm hearing for the council? I
believe Mike has recaptured what we're doing. I believe that was accurate, Mike.
Very good, thank you.
All right, just clarifying that we don't have the technology to do it. At this point, we're still investigating. Okay.
The verbiage.
Yes. Go ahead, Todd, you go to the next comment.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you decided on that. You keep reiterating that we don't have the means to do it right now. But we're asking that the verbiage be included. Is that the way you're going to do it?
That's what, I didn't hear any objections to keeping it in there while we continue to look into the better, more efficient ways to do it.
That's correct. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. Okay, 6.3, just a note of clarification here. There had been a note, Councilmember Kurtz, I guess you had noted to add the procedures for first and second read ordinances. It's already actually in section 4.1, so I don't think there's a need to reiterate. Either we take it out of the section 4.1 and add it here, or vice versa. Looking at this, I think it actually better fits section 6. As I noted before, section 4.1 is really the order of the meeting, not how the meeting goes. So if there's no objection from the council, we'll go ahead and make that adjustment and take the process for ordinances and resolutions out of 4.1, which is just the order of the meeting, and put it in section 6, which is more of the process.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay, great, thank you. I'm making note for myself here too, since I'm not doing the red lines as we go. Okay, thanks for your patience there. Go ahead to the next note. Written comments. So, I believe this came up either in the last meeting or the meeting prior. We had gone back after some things that happened at the beginning of the year and looked back at this ordinance and realized that we did not have to read written comments into the record for various reasons. And I guess I'm looking for clarification from the council on if we want to keep that as who is writing in and the topic, and that's it, noting it will be added to the record, and the council gets a full copy. I believe at the meeting or two ago, we did state what the position was, either for or against. So I'd like to get some consensus from the council as to whether we just want to leave it at the name and topic and then provide the entire written comment to the council for the record. Councilmember Curtis.
I think as far as for the participants who are not us for the meeting, I think it'd be helpful to know if they were for or against something. But I will go with the rest of the group.
Well, everybody would still get a copy of it. But to keep
Citizens
it,
who attend the meeting would not. If we're just reading, Dan Dunn said he has a comment about the dog park. We wouldn't know if he was for or against the dog park. And so I think it might help citizens understand more about what their neighbors are thinking.
anybody else want to weigh in on that?
I like the, whether they're a proponent or opponent.
Hugh?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's nice to just hear whether it's for or against, and I agree with Annie that that it's nice for citizens to just have an idea what their neighbors are thinking.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I'm sort of in favor of how we've been doing it since the first part of the year, that if somebody wants to give a written comment, they want to give verbal, that it is delivered to the city hall. Council members receive a copy of that. No part of that is read into the record. As a point of order, when this happened last time, I was the one that brought up point of order, because what the comment was that a certain individual had sent something in and was in favor of such and such. So I brought up a point of order, which was decided upon that we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah. And now I'm hearing several people saying that we should
Right.
be stating the position for or against. That's what I'm trying to resolve here. So Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
So I would recommend is for the council to have a logical discussion on this to see, do we want to have it where somebody sends in, we're not going to read it, but for the person to say, I'm in favor or against. First of all, to do that, don't they have to, is it something gonna have to read something on what they're in favor, for, or against? So therefore, part of their letter has to be read. What are they in favor, for, or against?
And if it's not for or against something and just a general comment, this would state the topic.
Once again, if it's written, we can't read it. Our policy is not to read it to the record.
Right. Councilmember Dunn, I saw your hand up, and then Councilmember Garcia.
I defer to DG. Go ahead.
Thank you, Councilmember Dunn. I would look at this differently. Anything that is brought to the council during the open and public meetings that's not read into the record, it therefore is not open and public to the rest of the constituency, and therefore that person or persons who want it have to request it in writing. And it doesn't become a public, it's a public record, but it should be made public at the time of the meeting. So if that is the consensus, that it not be made public by reading it into the record, the least that we could do would be to allow the individuals to say whether they are a proponent or opponent of a particular issue, or if they're going to be neutral. Most people who are neutral, get up and say, I agree with the first comment or whatever, but we need to find something. I believe our city attorney should probably weigh in on this, because I believe Sean was the individual who said, we don't have to read it into the record. With that said, then that means we could. We are deciding not to read it in the record. So we do have some leverage to read it in the record. We are making a decision not to. I don't know if that's a plus or minus for us, transparent as we claim to be. So I would say we might want to reconsider that whole issue there.
Councilmember Dunn, then Councilmember Langford.
I revisit what DG had said there, and that when we try and it puts staff in an awkward position to try and interpret what somebody said and recognize them as an opponent or an advocate. Depending on how articulate somebody is, that might be misinterpreted. So I can't support having somebody try to make a determination whether or not this public comment or this comment on a public hearing is for or against.
Councilmember Langford.
Yeah, I think we ought to just leave it like it is. Strike this.
Mayor Pro Tem, and then Councilmember Follier.
I've already spoken. Allow Councilman Follier to speak first.
Thank you, Mayor. Oop. Can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. I guess I question, the paragraph says, a person's appearing before the council shall limit their comments to 3 minutes. So their comments, if they appear before council, is in the record, but a written comment is not, is my question. And I guess I go back to what's wrong with reading 3 minutes of their written comment, and like we do for citizen comments, and at 3 minutes, do you stop reading?
Mm-hmm.
That had come up previously, and the question is, so if we get everybody reads at different speeds. So I may be able to blow through, a very long comment in 3 minutes, and somebody else might not be able to. We may not finish it when most of the meat of the comment may be at the end, or if we stop partway through, it might not be clear exactly what's being said. So that was a discussion around not reading things in the record. And then we went back to this ordinance at that time, and this happened earlier in the year, and we were reminded by the ordinance that when comments are written in, they do not have to be read into the record. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. If I can bring everybody's back to memory, is that in years past, we allowed individuals to read. If they said something, we read it in the record. And that's what we did for a long period of time. On January 5th, we had 20 some odd individuals take 45 minutes to read into the record what they wanted to say, and we allowed that. by the next meeting, suddenly that was no longer allowed. So in reality, we're in trouble. We create challenges no matter which direction we go here. Because what did come up, and reiterating what the mayor has said, the challenge is that we had situations where somebody could get up and speak for 3 minutes, but somebody would write something in, and I remember one instance where Ann spoke for about 7 minutes, reading all the comments. So the challenge was, and our administrator, Katie, brought up a very good point at the time, that are we putting ourselves in a liability situation where an individual wants to have their comments read into the record, and at 3 minutes we say, oh, I'm sorry, we have to cut you off. And the individual comes back and says, well, you didn't allow me to speak. So I really think this is very important, that how we allow it or not, I feel that the citizens have the right to be heard. It just, how long is it going to take?
So Councilmember Garcia, and then I'm noting the time, and we still have another workshop that's going to be cut very short. So Councilmember Garcia and Councilmember Carson, we can resume with this discussion at the next workshop.
I think that everyone is given 3 minutes. We wish they were given more time, but they're given 3 minutes. When you make the announcement for open and public comment, Mayor, you may wish to say that even if you would like to read your comments into the record, we are only able to take 3 minutes of that. We hope that you get it in. It's the same principle. If someone is speaking beyond the 3 minutes, we ask them politely to wrap it up. So in good faith, we can certainly say that to someone, and anyone who wants to read into the record. We just allow them that they are allowed the same amount of time as someone who is not reading something into the record, and therefore everything is fair and consistent.
Thank you. We'll go with Councilmember Kurtz, and then we'll table this until the next workshop, hopefully, and then we'll move on to our capital facilities plan.
2 things. I think the first thing is, if it's a written comment, can we just do a word count? I think that would be one way for things to be consistent. I like what Councilmember Floyer said about that people need to have the equal access. But I think the written word is different than the spoken word. Maybe there needs to be accommodation for that. I mean, I'm not one for adding a lot of arbitrary, anything that's arbitrary, but we're also trying to get succinctness and have the ability for the citizens' comments to be part of the record, it feels like. So I think we got to find a good method for that. My second comment would be, is there a way to finish this and get through this in the next little bit and move the other workshop? Because in reality, we're supposed to be done at 6:45 anyway. We're not even supposed to move on to the next topic. So I'm wondering how we do that.
I'll look to Lisa for that, and I know she wanted to at least get this kicked off tonight. Lisa, is there something you can cover between now and the next 5 or 10 minutes, or would you like to move this to the next meeting? When I don't believe we have a workshop scheduled next week.
Madam Mayor, council members, I can cover very briefly in about 5 minutes the highlights of what we need to talk about tonight. And then we could reschedule it for another meeting. But if you wish, we could defer that shortened presentation to the 7 o'clock meeting so that you can finish this. That would be your call.
Well, we're not going to finish this document, but it's the time that we have regardless. So I think, Lisa, why don't we stop here at 7.3 or 2? I've got small on my screen. Pick it up at the next meeting. And Lisa, why don't we jump over to if you can keep it to about 5 to 7 minutes, that'll give us a couple minutes for a quick break before 7 o'clock.
I will be very brief. Todd, can you?
Hold on, Lisa.
Is that the council's wish?
Any objections?
The only
Go ahead. Go ahead, Councilor Langford.
Yeah, I was just going to say, she said that she needed to cover more of it a second time. If we get the abbreviated version now, poll us afterwards, please. Let's see if we can make a decision based on what we hear without having it to be brought in again.
If I may clarify, I can do a quick presentation right now, set the table for a workshop on October 5th, or I can do the quick presentation at 7 o'clock to set the table for a workshop on October 5th. It's your pleasure.
So we need two workshops on this?
If council wants to provide the mayor with input on capital projects that will be included in her 2022 budget, that would be advisable.
Okay, well, we're running up on time no matter what, Councilmember Dunn.
I would ask we accept Lisa's suggestion as process and have her provide an introduction now and extend an additional introduction during our 7 o'clock hour.
Well, we're at 6:50 at this
Agreed.
point, so my suggestion would be we end our 6 o'clock workshop. We'll pick up with the rules of procedure next time, and Lisa, and Mayor Pro Tem, if it's acceptable, we will add an additional third short workshop under item 9 for tonight.
Absolutely.
Any objections to that? All right, sounds good. Good compromise. All right, well, we will adjourn till 7 o'clock. Stay tuned, everybody. Mike, any implication?
No,
Seriously?
I'm not in approval.
Yep. Okay. All right, we'll get started here in just a moment, everybody. Make sure I have all of my council members on the screen.
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Langford.
Yeah, regarding the invocation, I've noticed
Yeah.
what to me is a little disturbing. We've been sitting down for the invocation, but yet standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd appreciate it if we could do both, standing.
Absolutely. I had
Thank
a
you.
similar thought a meeting or two ago, so thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, thank you.
We all got a little complacent at home on Zoom and kind of lost that. Okay, so 7 o'clock. Welcome to our regular city council meeting, Tuesday, September 21st, 2021. We have Mayor Pro Tem, myself, and meeting manager, our IT tech, Todd Henderson here in Chambers. We are quite a distance apart, and due to some sound issues, we have unmasked while keeping our distance. Governor Inslee's Order 20-28-152 regarding the OPMA remains in effect. It requires public meetings, hearings to be held remotely with an option of also holding an in-person component to a public meeting or hearing if certain conditions are met. At the present time, the City of Liberty Lake has determined not to hold an in-person component to a public meeting or hearing. We'll go ahead and start our meeting off with the invocation. Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm not sure if it was said, but it will be heard. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gathering that we have of all the council members and supportive staff believe we have 20 some odd individuals who have interest in tonight's meeting. I pray that you're with us so that we make the right decisions for the benefit of all of our citizens. In your son's name, we pray. Amen.
Join me
Amen.
for the pledge. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance
to
to
the
the
flag
flag,
Flag
the
of the United States of America and to the republic
to the
for
republic
which it
for
stands,
which
one
it stands,
nation, under God,
indivisible with liberty and justice for all.
Getting a little echo there. All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Do a quick roll call here. Councilmember Kurtz,
Present.
Councilmember Collier,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Kennedy,
present.
Councilmember Dunn,
Good evening, everybody.
Councilmember Severs,
Present.
Councilmember Langford,
Present.
and Councilmember Garcia.
Present.
All right, all counted and present and accounted for. All right, Mayor Pro Tem, we're looking for the agenda approval or any additions or deletions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the consideration of the council with tonight's agenda. One addition would be that we're moving the capital facilities plan discussion 2022 to our 7 o'clock workshop discussion.
Do we have a second for that change?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Councilmember Dunn for adding the CFP workshop under number 9, workshop discussions. All in favor of adding that to today's agenda, say aye.
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 All, any opposed? All right, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Mayor. Therefore, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented,
As amended.
as amended, yes, and presented.
We have a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Councilmember Langford. Any discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor of the amended agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it, 7-0. All right, we will go ahead and move on to citizen comments. Just a reminder that any citizen wanting to comment, please send a note to Todd Henderson in the chat function. Please, you'll have a chance to state your name, whether you are a resident of the city of Liberty Lake or not. We'll have 3 minutes. There'll be a countdown on the screen. And so just go ahead and send a chat. I do know we have a gentleman calling in today. He is not on Zoom, Mr. John Harding. So since I know he is called in for the meeting, I will go ahead and let him have the floor first. I've had a couple conversations with him over the last week. And so John, if you're there, Todd, if we can make sure that he's unmuted. The number ends in, let me find it. Hold on. Number ends in 4680. If you can unmute Mr. Harding. And John, you'll have 3 minutes. John, are you there? Okay, you'll need to unmute yourself, Mr. Harding. Star 6, correct, Todd?
Correct.
Can you hear me now?
We can. Thank you. Welcome, and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. My name is John Harding. I'm a Spokane Valley resident. Been out in the valley here for 35 or 40 years. I'm a retired firefighter from the city of Spokane, Local 29. I'm calling tonight in regards to, I have great concerns about the coming impact on our public safety section of our city and government. As you know, there's a mandate coming down. I believe it's October 18th. And already we're feeling an awful lot of folks leaving their different positions. And it's possible that we could lose enough that we're going to have very serious impact on the ability of the service to meet the need. This is something that I would love to try and avoid. And tonight, all I'm doing is suggesting that we get together and collaborate with those different pieces of our public safety component. And, you know, maybe we can't come up with a good answer, but if we don't try, we'll never know. And it's quite a lengthy list of components, but I'll go through real quickly. You know, we have police and deputies, we have firefighters, EMTs, a private ambulance service, hospitals and all their staff, nurses, doctors, lab techs, surgeons, and the list goes on. These are pieces of our public safety component that are all being impacted right now. I know of one hospital that is in double digits already, 40, I think 45 or 46 openings at one hospital. And it's going to get worse. I know for a fact that firefighters are planning, there's about a group of 40 that say they are not going to take the vaccine. Now, Chief Collins said he will give them a religious exemption or certain medical exemptions. My concern here is that this whole thing is based on one man in Olympia, and overnight he could change his mind and say, this is something that is so important, we're just going to have to mandate that everybody in, you know, emergency response teams, the whole public safety sector are going to have to get the vaccine. So the only way I can see to stop this, and I think this will work, is to have some member of the public safety component. It could be a chief, it could be a board director, it could be somebody in...
John, I hate to interrupt you. You run out of your 3 minutes. I know we had talked about this earlier, because I know you can't see the clock. I will continue to follow up with you, and feel free to just follow up. And I do have the information you sent prior to this to get to the council. So I will follow up with you on this as well. I apologize that you ran out of time.
No, I understand. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Mayor?
Do we have anyone else? Oh, Councilmember Langford?
Yes, if possible, would you have, or ask that gentleman if he'd call back at the end for another 3, please? I'd like to hear some more.
Sure. John, if you're still on, I'm not quite sure when our other citizen comment period will come. It'll come at near the end of the meeting, but Councilmember Langford is asking if you could add some additional information during the next period. And I do have his number. I may be able to send him a text, Councilmember Langford.
Thank you.
All right. Todd, do we have anybody else who'd like to make? Okay. Okay. So Tom Stallberg.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Neighbors, staff, and officials. I found the workshop very interesting. Since last January, mine was the first written citizen comment not to be read into the record. It was a 1 minute and 30-second rebuttal to a 7-minute read statement the meeting prior. So I'll look forward to hearing how you decide on that. First of all, I want to start with the positives, and that is that thank you so much to Ann Swenson for her service to us. She was always a light. She was welcome. She was empathetic. She was the best letter, proclamation, and ordinance reader that we ever had, and I will miss her dearly. And if you're listening, we're going to miss you a lot. And secondly, thank you for the city crews, Jen, Stephen, Reagan, Slocum. Our parks and our landscapes just shine. And you've just done a bang-up job this whole last spring and summer. And I'm sure you will in the winter as well. Third, Katie, I think you're going to retire. However, since I was appointed to the parole board by the governor of the state back in the day, your conditions of release are yet to be determined. I'll be talking to many of you that are on this call to determine those conditions, and we will make an adjudication of them and present them to you at the proper time. Lastly, well, second to lastly, today I had an opportunity to go out on one of my regular walks and bike rides, and I decided to go west, old man. And I went all the way to the Sullivan Bridge area and enjoyed sidewalks and bike lanes and speed limits that were posted. And I'm looking very forward to those being completed for the River District. And I hope that you all hear me. It has been since Bob Moore presented the strategic plan that I asked for a master plan for bicycle and pedestrian safety. And I do have some ideas on it that I will present to you at another time. Thank you so much for your attention, and we have 30 seconds left.
Thank you for joining us. Okay. Nada, Water District. Can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me okay? Hi, guys. Good evening, Mayor Kaminskis and City Council members. It's nice to see everyone. I've been watching a couple of City Council meetings during the last several months. So just two things real quick. One, wanted to just say that we are going to do something with the leaf pickup this year, again, like we normally do. Not entirely sure what it is yet and how we're going to do it. People seem to appreciate the different way we did it last year with the drop off. But I know there were some folks who didn't have access to a vehicle or couldn't get there. So you know, we're looking at that. I just wanted you to know that it's in the works, and Katie gave us a couple good ideas last night based on your Snow Angel program. So we're going to look at some different things. And if you guys have any feedback, you know, get in touch with me or Tom Agnew or Bijay or Bill, and we're happy to take your thoughts. And the second thing was just wanted to say I appreciate the city considering using some of the federal relief money for utility customers only in the city. I totally get that. It should only be for people that live within the city limits. But I know there will be some that will need some relief, and we're happy to work with your folks however we need to make sure that to the extent you want to go that way, that we do it in a way that makes sense to everybody and is appropriate for people and those that really are in need versus those that just haven't paid their bills. And we have some of those. So anyway, happy to answer any questions on either one of those issues. Otherwise, I look forward to a great meeting. Thanks.
Thank you for joining us.
Sure.
All right, do we have anybody else? It looks like we are done with citizen comments. Remember, we do have a second session near the end of the meeting. If there are things that you think of during the meeting you'd like to make a comment on, you will have a chance. Okay, next we have announcements, proclamations, and special presentations. We do have a proclamation declaring Fire Prevention Week. Kyle, are you taking this one tonight?
Certainly. I cannot outshine Ann, but I will do my best. So, proclamation of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, Fire Prevention Week. Whereas the City of Liberty Lake, Washington is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living in and visiting Liberty Lake. And whereas fire is a serious public safety concern both locally and nationally. And homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk of fire. And whereas home fires killed more than 2,770 people in the United States in 2019, according to the National Fire Protection Association. And fire departments in the United States responded to 339,500 home fires. And whereas smoke alarms sense smoke well before you can, alerting you to danger in the event of fire in which you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape safely. And whereas working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. And whereas Liberty Lakes residents should be sure everyone in the home understands the sounds of alarms and knows how to respond. And whereas Liberty Lake residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will be therefore more likely to survive a fire. And whereas Liberty Lake residents will be sure their smoke and carbon monoxide alarms meet the needs of all of their family members, including those with sensory and physical disabilities. And whereas Liberty Lakes first responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. And whereas Liberty Lakes residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas the 2021 Fire Prevention Week theme, Learn the Sounds of Fire Safety, effectively serves to remind us It is important to learn the different sounds of smoke and carbon monoxide alarms.
Before I do the thereby resolve, I realize I didn't take a vote from the council to support this proclamation, so quick motion and second to approve the proclamation before we finish it.
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion that we accept this proclamation.
Is a second.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Severs. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, proclamation is approved, 7-0. Therefore, be it resolved that the week of October 3rd through 9th, 2021 be designated as Fire Prevention Week throughout the city, and I urge all the people of Liberty Lake to learn the sounds of fire safety for the Fire Prevention Week 2021, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of Spokane Valley Fire Department serving the residents of Liberty Lake. Now, I know we do have Fire Commissioner Brian Asmus and Fire Marshal Greg Rogers with us to accept the proclamation. Would either of you like to say a few words?
Well, good evening, Mayor, members of the council. On behalf of the Spokane Valley Fire Commissioners, I just want to thank you for your continued partnership with the Spokane Valley Fire Department and for adopting the proclamation declaring October 3rd through 9th as Fire Prevention Week.
Thanks for joining us. Greg, is there anything that you'd like to add?
I was going to say I would just echo our commissioners' comments, and I just wanted to share with the city council and yourself as well as Katie. We really appreciate the partnership, the collaboration that we get to do with the city, as well as, I don't know if you're aware, this weekend we had our first car seat check program out at the Liberty Lake Fire Station, and I want to let you know it was very successful, and we're looking forward to our continued partnership and collaboration with the city of Liberty Lake, and we can't thank you guys enough.
We appreciate you being here, and we also, as a city, appreciate the teamwork that we have had with you guys over the years. It's a great partnership. Okay, well, I will be signing the proclamation after the meeting, and we will get you guys a copy. All right, moving on to reports, starting with City Council reports. I know Councilmember Dunn was going to do a quick overview of our slot exchange presentation, and then if there are any other council member reports, we will take those after.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. So on September 8th, Wednesday, we had a public notice meeting of the City Council to take a look at a platform for engagement. We've been dealing with the concept of engagement as a group for considerable time, and great stewardship on the part of Annie in presenting an ordinance for a commission. What I've learned about and come to understand from two of the adjacent agencies in our region, Central Valley School District and the City of Spokane, there's a technology-based approach to this. Thought Exchange is the name of this application that has some pretty significant benefit, as witnessed by those groups, what they got out of it, what they believe it is useful for. So I'm going to light up a share screen and tell me when you get there. Is that visible, browser?
We see Google, yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to do a quick overview on the mechanics, because for those who weren't able to attend, I just want to try and talk a little bit about what this is and why it's different than a survey. How this begins is a URL. And what I learned from Central Valley, for example, as a good practice is they took a mailing list of their jurisdiction and delivered to them a mailing card, which included a QR code. This interaction we're about to have is actually easier on the phone than it is on a desktop. But with a card that you got in the mail, you turn it over and take a picture of it with your phone, and it takes you to this URL. What I'm going to do here is look at what the City of Spokane arranged for their ARP dollar spend. So this is a typical interaction. I'm going to try and make it like less than 2 minutes, but introduce why it's not a survey, and it probably has a little bit more utility than a survey. Sure, I'm English. We're going to ask a few questions, and you get to rate some thoughts. A short video. Now, I'm not going to play this back, but Brianne Beggs gets to stand up and introduce how the city has come into significant funding from the federal government, and the utility of how those dollars to be spent is an important conversation for the whole community. There's some words here that allow me to understand a little bit more about what he's speaking of. And then some statements of objective. This was particularly familiar to me for some of our effort as a city to say, here's what we believe in principle, the areas of our ARP dollar spend should be. Then I'm going to go on. Privacy. The actions taken here are in record. Sure. I don't live in the city of Spokane, but I do frequent it. I don't live in the city, so I'm not going to talk to a district. A demographic gesture. How old am I? The first thing I get to do is say, what do I think? And I'm going to say, support local businesses. They're the heart of the economy. I could continue to literally provide what me as a citizen thinks is the important things that we should commit the spending for ARP to support. As many as I choose. I have several ideas. I might throw them down. Once I'm done with that, I've given enough. Now I begin this process of understanding what other people have said. Each one of these thoughts and their supporting ideas are just like that experience I had a second ago. And I get to say, do I agree? Vacant lots are a blight in the city of Spokane. I very much agree. Architecture designs, I think you're doing okay. Homeless encampments definitely need to have some address, and so forth. So what will happen is I'll be treated to really the collection of ideas that were contributed by that greater whole. And then later the city of Spokane in this example has a significant statistical base now to talk about what has emerged as the important ideas or conversations to call it within the jurisdiction. So the utility of the platform, in my opinion, is fit for some very, I'd say, easily obtained and immediate direct feedback engagement from the people of the community. What we learned during the course of that meeting then on the Wednesday the 8th is the organization Thought Exchange is happy to present and host an example of a thought exchange interaction for us to consider before we even commit to any purchase or spend on the part of the city in commitment. So I personally was impressed with the utility of it and wanted to take not this meeting, but begin the process of identifying what we think of as a sample question that we could use for this purpose. So that's a quick summary.
Appreciate it. Yeah, this is definitely something I think, having a free sample would be great. And then going forward, this is a great project for the newly formed Community Engagement Commission to tackle after the first of the year. So I appreciate the overview. All right, any other city council reports? Councilmember Kurtz?
Okay, so speaking of community engagement, I had the opportunity to meet with Katie and Chris, I think it was last week already, to talk about sort of the timeline. And if you read the mayor's report about what she's been working on, the timeline was outlined in there. And as has been stated at the meetings in the past, there currently is not staff support to sort of kick off community engagement. So the recruitment, the application process, interviews, and all of that. And in talking with Katie and Chris, I volunteered to assist in that area, to step in and help kind of get things going so that we can look at potentially a January start for the commission and having them be appointed by the council. And so I wanted to, I guess, the suggestion was for me to reach out to you guys and kind of get your blessing, I guess, to assist in that process while we don't have staff to fill in. So looking for some feedback on whether you want me to help in that area in between now and January, or wait until someone is hired at some point to do that work. So that is kind of my question. So looking for some feedback.
This sounds great, Annie. So quickly, what we need to do is really identify through an application process people to participate, and then go through sort of a screening criteria to determine which ones we want to take a look at. And I think from the ordinance, this actual appointments to the commission are the role of the mayor.
Yes.
Great. I mean, in my opinion, for you to dig in and, work up that application process and work in promotion of that application and then work to solicit and collect applications, I think that's great. I'm grateful for your time.
Thanks, Dan.
Any other comments? Councilmember Garcia, see your hand. You're on mute.
Firstly, Councilmember Kurtz, I commend your efforts to just keep moving with this project and getting the people involved. That's it. It's a good thing. It's a healthy thing. I had the opportunity this week to visit the area of town on Appleway. Our folks who live in First Liberty, Broadwing, and Talon Hills. I would like to suggest that we take a hard look on the transportation that is not really there for that community. They're still having a hard time for people who do not have cars. Young people are trying to get from here to there. When the school year is out, they don't have the opportunity to move around town like we do. And although I'm talking about something in the future, it's good to put it on our plates now. They're going to have difficulty like they've had in years past, getting shopping and all those things that they do with people who don't have vehicles. So I would like us to look at facilitating some sort of effort to get more transportation to that area, bus routes, maybe a special bus route just to that area to get them back and forth. I think it's time we start looking into that and taking care of all areas of our home. It's the same thing we want to do for those who live in the River District and Trutina, all of those outlying areas that are going to need a little support in different ways, not necessarily transportation, bus and travel. So please, let's put that on our plate at some time so that we can discuss it sooner rather than later. So we are prepared when time is needed.
So, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
To Councilman Kurt's question, at this point, I'm definitely in favor that we open up the applications and start getting individuals who express interest in this. I've had a couple of individuals that have shown an interest in this, and a couple that I would strongly recommend that they apply. But at the same time, I would like us to put some emphasis on having the staff to be able to work with this. And I appreciate any council member coming forward to assist. At the same time, if we don't have supportive staff, I think it's going to possibly drag down. What I'm always concerned about is getting citizens all involved, excited about something. It's like having a football team go out there, run, and suddenly the door's locked. That enthusiasm goes down. So we have got this ball rolling. I don't want to see it slow down. Therefore, I'm certainly in favor of, let's start getting applications and then see if we can get the staff to support that. Thank you.
So for those of you who may not have had a chance to go through my report, the tentative timeline, if we start the application process now, is about 1 month to recruit. We're estimating once we get the application updated, publicized, resumes back or applications back, about a month to interviews. Remember, we have holidays coming up. We're in the middle of budget season, so we'll get those in. And then the thought is commission confirmations, maybe the first meeting in January, after I know we'll have some shifts in council. And then we will need to arrange orientation, open public meetings act, and PRA training, review how the public process works and everything. And we can, probably be doing some of that, and maybe a little bit of that ahead of when we get a staff member, because that training would not come through from that added staff member that we're looking for. But we'll have to kind of work with that when the time comes with regard to how we can schedule that. But we're definitely, with the timeline, we're definitely looking at January before any confirmations would happen. Does anybody have any challenges with that timeline at this point? Mayor Pro Tem?
Actually, I do. I would like to see if there's a possibility to put that somewhat on maybe a quicker, fast track. I would appreciate consideration for that. Thank you.
So just to make sure I'm clear, so You're asking for the commission confirmations to be done before the end of the year?
If possible, because I think we have solid interest there. Initially, we're looking at 5 individuals, up to a maximum of 9. I know of 2 right now who would jump on that, who I think are very qualified to get involved in this. So I think it would be advantageous. Start taking applications, run that through as possible, and these individuals can realize that they can start know who the other players are, and we can start looking at being able to find some assistance with staff.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, we'll move ahead then with, go ahead, Councilmember Dunn, before I finish.
My only observation is to be respectful of staff time, specifically constraints in time and energy, and not to overburden what is already a really challenged staff situation.
Noted. So I think at this point, take this a step at a time. We'll get the application updated, beefed up a little bit for the commission, and we'll get the advertisements out for applications to be turned back in and see how fast they come in. And then we'll, like I said, take it step by step, being aware, obviously, as Councilmember Dunn pointed out, as I did, staff constraints. So we'll just keep reporting back on the process as we get through it. We appreciate it. Thanks, Councilmember Kurtz, for your added effort on this. Your work is definitely appreciated.
Thanks.
Any other council, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, over the last few weeks, I was involved with several weeks with the Spokane Valley Chamber Government Action Committee. I won't give a report on a lot of things they're talking about because it's ongoing, trying to deal with the state and budgetary, what we could do on the side of the state. And it's amazing to me how slow this process is to figure out the amount of money we should receive and what we are receiving. So more as that becomes closer, I'll be able to report on that. This last week, just briefly mention on this because I think the mayor will want to make a comment also. Both the mayor and I were able to attend by Zoom the mayor's AWC meeting, which, we've got 281 cities in the state. I believe we had about 40, if that, which was disappointing. We didn't have more mayors and mayor pro tems involved with that. But it was somewhat positive. The thing that I most got out of it, and Mayor Kaminskas and I have talked about this, is that they broke into these small groups that we could be able to talk to other mayor and mayor pro tems in these cities to find out what they're doing with the COVID money, things of the sort here. That was very advantageous. So that was very positive. I don't want to go any more because I'm sure the mayor will maybe make some comments on it also. Thank you.
Well, if you all of a sudden see my Mayor Pro Tem Kennedy and I throwing a porcupine at each other, the result of that meeting.
Yeah. We're gonna have to explain that.
So we'll explain that another time.
Yeah.
Okay, any other council reports? Councilmember Follier.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a report. I have an inquiry since we seem to have lost our inquiry section on the agenda, but it's been brought to my attention recently. Content on our city Facebook pages. I'm wondering, do we have any kind of a policy or what's our, how do we approach content on those pages? Who monitors that?
Go ahead, Katie. You're on mute though.
Councilmember Foyer, we do have a written policy. I can't recite it verbatim, but we will find a copy of the policy and provide it to all of you. Our goal, though, is to monitor what the conversation and content is on the city's website. Jen Camp is on the call tonight. She's the person right now that does this in her spare time. I will mention she does it around the clock, 7 days a week. So Jen, if you wanted to add any additional information, we do have a policy on what does get posted and what conversations we engage in on the city's Facebook page.
So maybe to be a little more specific, it's not so much, the inquiry is not so much about what we post, it's what others may post. So are we monitoring that?
Yes. Jen.
Yeah, so I don't quite, I'm not following the specifics of your question, but we tend to share nonprofit posts from the Hub, from the Rotary, from the Winter Glow Group, anyone who's a 501(c)(3), we share those posts. Really, we don't share much else. There are a lot of library posts that are shared, a lot of PD posts that are shared. that's kind of the bulk of it. So unless there's something specific that I can address, not sure.
I'll follow up with you on that one. Thank you.
Councilmember Garcia.
Is this the appropriate time, although you've passed city council reports? May I weigh in again on Member Foyer's statement?
Sure.
Okay. I'd like to see us monitor the Facebook page that belongs to the community, because oftentimes there's a lot of comments there that somehow need to be open in public, and it needs to be monitored, or have something on that page that says, go to the city page when you have questions. I don't see it out there. Occasionally I'll see it out there, go to the city page, but there's a lot of chatter, and it's always good to hear what the public has to say. But we want to make sure that the public understands we could all be in violation, or whoever it is could be in violation of our own oath, et cetera, if we engage. So it may be imperative that we look at some sort of message that we put on the community pages that relate to government issues or questions people may ask, and refer them back to the city page so that those questions can be answered through a city, through the city website versus them getting information. I'd love to, we want to be able to tell them everything they want to know, but those pages are not necessarily open to the public because not everyone is a member. So that's just a thought, just to weigh in on, perhaps that was not Member Foyer's intention to even talk about the community page, but monitoring is monitoring, and we want to err on the side of caution.
Councilmember Dunn.
I'll agree to Councilmember DG's observation, specifically that anything posted on Facebook platform is not public, that we're committed as a government entity to present and to discuss in public. Madam Mayor, could I ask a workshop on social media in the future?
Or we can put that on the list, and thankfully that this additional body that we hopefully will be approving in the 2022 budget will be the person to have more time to do those things. I know many of us have tried in the past to direct people back to the responsible entities, and it seems to get ignored. But yes, we can definitely put it on the list. Thanks for asking. All right, any other council reports? Okay, if not, I will jump into mine. I got, it's been a busy couple weeks, got my report out today. I'll just hit the highlights. If you guys haven't tried the support at libertylakewah.gov ticketing system, I highly suggest you give it a try. We have we now have implemented an internal ticketing system to get your IT needs taken care of. It creates a ticket in our system by which we can track time, we can track issues, and then we then have the data to run and see if we have any trends. Where is Todd and where is Executive spending their time? Are there systematic issues that we might be able to tackle and fix? You know, obviously locking yourself out with password, nothing we can really fix, but there might be bigger issues as for example, I've been having trouble with Zoom for the last couple of days, so I submitted a ticket. Todd responded, I brought my computer in and he was able to fix it. So try a test ticket, it's really easy. You don't need to open an app or anything, just open your email, send it to support@libertylakewah.gov and give it a try. So I sent an email on that previous, and the email address is also on my report. Let me see, there are improvements coming to the I-90 signage. I'll let Kate maybe address that in her report on what improvements are coming. One thing we have talked about on numerous occasions, I did just want to have the council confirm their wishes on this. We had talked about not having a meeting on November 2nd and moving that to November 9th. I just want to get a weigh in, make sure everybody's still okay with that plan, or if there's any objections. So, Councilmember Foyer.
Yeah, I read that, Mayor. Thank you. I read that and I wonder why we're moving it a full week. Why can't we just move it a day or two to Wednesday or Thursday of that same week?
That is an option. Any other feedback? If there's no objections, what we can do to give people time to check their calendars, we'll send out, I know Lisa uses the doodle poll or whatever it is, so we can check off what days we're free. We'll get that out, so we can maybe come up with another day that week to have the meeting instead of moving it out to the night. The point you're probably trying to make, Councilor Poirier, is going to be in the middle of budget season, and having that slide may not be wise. So we'll take a look at the calendars. Any other comments? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor. If I could ask Councilor Poirier, are you thinking like maybe the next night, the Wednesday or something like that of that week, or Thursday? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, it's nice to have some separation between council meetings if possible. So it was just a quick thought. Why don't we just do it on Wednesday or Thursday?
I agree. Thank you.
Okay. We'll have that determined here in the next day or so. Thanks, everybody. Okay, let's see. Library board meeting, just a quick note from that. So starting in January, the board will be providing quarterly reports on activities and actions that they have taken with regards to the assessment that was done, so we can be more up to date on what they are doing towards that. Katie and I had a great meeting with Todd Prescott, the developer at Stonehill, with regards to his plans for the property. Due to some NDAs that he is under, he wasn't able to share a lot, but we did talk about an updated presentation or open house at that property in January. A lot of us were able to attend it a couple of years ago, and it'll be good to have him present to the council updated plans after the end of the year. Visit Spokane Holiday Marketing Committee. So it's been kind of a fun committee to be on, sub to the Visit Spokane board that I'm on. There will be there is a merry and magical theme put in place for the holidays to get people to visit Spokane. They are going to have media placement in the Inlander Holiday Guide, out-of-market billboards, I-90 billboards, digital campaigns, and as a reward, I guess, for being on the committee, Liberty Lake will have access to a free quarter-page ad in the holiday guide that will be in the Inlander, or the value of that free quarter-page ad toward a bigger ad. I had a fairly brief discussion with Mark Saba from Winterglow, and I was thinking, since the Winterglow is really the only holiday, really big event that we do here, so I would love to be able to pass on that quarter-page ad or the credit for Winterglow to use that in the holiday guide to drive some visitors to Winterglow, and then obviously visitors to Liberty Lake. So my suggestion to them was to engage a local media company to set up a QR code, maybe update the website, and develop a print ad. So I'll be following up with them on that. And since they are a 501c3, we may even be able to get those services donated to them. So just stay tuned with that. I think it's a great opportunity, and they're advertising this all over the region down and Tri-Cities and everything. So Winterglow had a lot of buzz last year on some social media pages. People were shocked what we put on, and we're very pleased with it. So I look forward to being even more successful this year. So Mayor Pro Tem mentioned some of the redistricting. So we do have the county redistricting coming up. We do have some sample letters. If the council is interested in them, I can get this out to everybody. There are 3 maps that they're working on. I know there's a couple of options that are not so favorable to Liberty Lake. One actually splits Liberty Lake's representation in half, splitting the north from the south. We don't need any more separation there. Another one kind of lumps us up with the valley, which kind of dilutes our voice. So I will work with Katie tomorrow and get those sample letters out to you guys if you feel you want to forward on those letters to the county commissioners and the county redistricting committee. We need to get those in pretty quick. And we also have the state redistricting going on. I did testify at one of their hearings, and I have a couple of sample letters for that too. I'm not going to bore the audience with any more talk with that, but I will get that information out to you if you feel inclined to have your voice heard on any redistricting for the United States Senate and congressional districts. And I think that's really about it. Everything else is in your report. If you have any questions, you guys can get a hold of me after you have a chance to read through that.
Mayor.
Yes, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I would just like to add, one thing you were going to mention is that ad that we're getting there to ask Winter Go to be able to do something there, that's no additional charge. So I think it's important for the council to realize there's no additional charge for that.
Yeah, what quarter page worth $300 and something is what we're getting for my participation in the meeting. But it's been fun. It's been a great group, and they're very creative over there. Okay, Parks and Arts Commission, Lena, thanks for being patient.
Good evening, guys. Lena Schutz, Chairperson Parks and Arts Commission. Couple of things to update the council on. First is our statue project. Mounting bases have been installed at Rocky Hill, and the commission also approved lighting to that art. So they are working on picking out some art that would help complement our statue. Statue fabrication is in progress in his studio. He's done all the cutouts, but there is a delay in steel. So he's waiting for his next delivery, and then he'll be able to assemble it all and hopefully get it here. We're looking at closer to an October timing at this point for installation. So that's what we're looking at as far as the statue project. Our budget was submitted for 2022. I also wanted to mention for anyone who's on the call tonight, we have an opening in the Parks and Arts Commission representing Orchard Park. So if anyone is listening tonight and interested in joining our group, we would love to have you apply. And my only other thing I wanted to just say really quickly to Commissioner Dunn is that I think the Parks and Arts Commission would be very interested in using Thought Exchange to get an idea from the community what projects they're interested in us working on, maybe prioritizing our projects a little better. I think it sounds very appealing to our commission as well. So I just thought I'd mention that. Anyone have any questions?
I don't see any. I will add, if I may, Lena, we have one confirmed application for Parks and Arts and one that we're trying to confirm. I believe there were some technical challenges with the full application coming through. So we are reaching out to that person. And so barring any new applications in the next few days, we'll be doing an interview or two next week, and hopefully we'll have someone new for you soon.
Great. Right, thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Yep.
Okay, City Administrator report. Katie, your turn.
Well, thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Good evening. As Todd's pulling up my report, I was going to ask a question. How many workshops do you think we've had since February 6th? Because I actually know, I've just counted them, and it's more than 30. And so the amount of time that you guys have spent working on workshops is amazing. And I just wanted to start with the matrix. We're in the process of redoing it, but this is where we keep track of ideas for workshops and the workshops that are coming up at the next council meeting. So the workshop that's coming up next on, say it'd be October 5th, let me get to that, is a continuation of today's policy and procedures. And if I get this wrong, correct me. Mayor Pro Tem, you had mentioned ordinance review, and this has to do with the process of the mayor. She's going to be, she has a workshop tonight on updating our ordinances on mayor appointments and council confirmations. She has an overview of that, but if you guys want a workshop on that and have more conversation, we could add that to October 5th, along with Lisa's CFP. So those are the 3 workshops that we have scheduled for the next council meeting.
Katie, what do we have at 6? Have you decided yet?
So my suggestion, Mayor, is rules and procedures. We kind of try to wrap that up at 6, if that's okay. And then we could move the CFP and the ordinance discussion on council appointments and mayor appointments and council's confirmations. We could move that to 7. Is that agreeable to everyone? Okay.
Anybody's shaking their head vehemently, so it should be good.
Well, we'll keep tracking all of those things. And then the other thing, I just wanted to give you a quick update on City Hall. This past Saturday, we cleaned out our ductwork. I don't know when the last time it was done, but I'm sure it needed to be done. So that's good news. The other thing is that on our agenda tonight is to award a system upgrade for our HVAC system here at City Hall. And it does include an air purification component. And so it's $117,000. And that's on your agenda for review tonight. Moving along, I'm going to ask Jen to give us a quick update on Winter Glow.
Good evening. Winter Glow is moving right along the planning. October 2nd, there is a 10 o'clock a.m. volunteer meeting at Orchard Park in the depot for anyone who is interested in attending and being a volunteer to help set up and tear down for that event. On November 6th, setup actually begins in the park. So you'll see lots of activity going on there. And then November 20th is the official opening day / opening ceremony. We're in the process of planning a few fun activities to kind of celebrate the grand opening of the lighting, similar to what we did a couple years ago. So stay tuned for a little more information on that. That's all I have.
Okay, moving along, we're on number 4 now. I did provide all of you a copy of the city administrator's job description. It was adopted by the council in 2012 in February. And so our ordinance does require that the city council accept the job description. So if you have time to read it, if there's any edits or changes you want to make, feel free to send them to the mayor or myself or Kyle, and we will incorporate those changes and bring it back for the full council to review and discuss. I also sent out a schedule. It's pretty aggressive, but if you do accept the job description in its entirety on August 5th, we could begin the next day on a recruitment schedule. And right now, if you play it out, it looks like probably sometime in December, there could hopefully be an appointment. And I'll be very happy.
Katie, just real quick, I had an opportunity to read through the job description again, Mayor Pro Tem Kennedy, and I looked at it. We did notice that it calls for having to have a Washington driver's license. Right. So we'll probably need to update that to possibly include Idaho as well. And really everything else that we looked at looked like it was still really relevant, but we do want those comments back from the council before 9:30. So that we can get them in the agenda for the 10-5 review and adoption.
Yeah, no, great catch. I didn't catch that. So they need a driver's license and the ability to get a Washington driver's license.
Well, but if they live in Idaho, they don't need to have a Washington driver's license,
You're right. Okay.
So just a driver's license, period.
Okay. Excellent. And then now Kyle is going to give you a brief update on the nonprofit applications that we've received to date.
Yeah, so following up on our workshop discussion at the last council meeting, I made everybody aware that we did receive 13 applications, and after some discussion during that workshop, it was determined that some follow-up needed to be done with some of our nonprofits, and so I did reach out to them. And in particular, I asked about what percentage of their fundraising efforts are geared back towards the Liberty Lake community. And while that does seem like a simple ask, it actually can be a heavy lift for some of these entities to parse out where exactly these dollars are going. And so I have made contact with all of them. I've heard back from most of them, but I don't have that information finalized yet. And so I will be bringing that back. Hopefully we can have something finalized for the October 5th meeting, and we can bring back some solid data for you guys to consider. And I suppose in the meantime, I know we touched on this a little bit at the last council meeting, but just following up, if council has or can form a majority on the exact direction we want to take, this data we eventually get when it's finalized, whether that be a percentage of the ask, whether it's a flat rate, to kind of maybe gear the proposal in the right direction. So I just want to be clear on what council, I guess, wants me to present to them, if anything, at this point. And if you guys want to wait until I get the data back, I completely understand. I know we've kind of been repeating ourselves a lot on this. This is a marathon, not a race. And I know we are the first ones to get an application out that I'm aware of. And so I think we're absolutely doing our due diligence and being responsive to community needs. It is just taking a little bit longer than I thought to get all the data back from the nonprofits.
Thank you. Kyle, thank you for bringing that up. You reminded me that when the mayor and I were involved in the AWC mayor meeting last week, so we broke out into these different rooms to talk to other council members or mayors and stuff. Where we are, I think we're a little bit ahead of the game. It may not look like it, but I think we're doing pretty good. Because what was interesting to me, I'm sure the mayor we should make a comment also, that there are a lot of other cities out there that really don't know where they're going with this. They really don't know what it could be used for. They're not sure how they're going to be able to report it. So there's a lot of confusion there. So I think we're ahead of the game. I'm glad I was able to attend that because I have a better feeling of where we are right now and where we're moving to. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Mayor, did we want to move on?
Katie, Councilmember Dunn, didn't you have your hand up? Sorry about that.
Just as an observation, Kyle, I would only ask us staff that you come back with how these applicants have responded. I don't think necessarily a ton of summarizing or surmising is necessary, as much just reveal what was responded to from that question. Thanks.
Perfect.
Okay. Okay, so moving along, I'm going to give you a quick update on construction. It's going to be fast. We do have Tom Brash with WashDOT in a workshop following this report. So I don't want to steal his thunder on the Harvard Road Bridge that opened recently. And also last night, I drove through the bridge twice and the contractor was still working on it. And if you've driven northbound on Liberty Lake Road, the barrels are gone and we're using both lanes. So we're moving in the right direction. Also, let's see, Bill and myself are driving out there with Damon, looking at how the cars are reacting and tweaking whatever signage and traffic signal adjustments need to be made. So that's something that is still underway. The Kramer Overpass, Tom, you can touch on that when we get to your workshop. Appleway, as you all know, the county has a it's a total reconstruction of Appleway from our eastern boundaries all the way to state line. There's always that shock the first couple days of construction. I think people are getting used to it, and it is a longer project. It is probably posted to go through mid to late October. So we are getting a lot of questions here at City Hall. We're trying our best to answer them. And then there is a ribbon cutting tomorrow at 2 o'clock for the Harvard Road Bridge. And we've identified the location on the pedestrian bridge so you can actually look down and see the new bridge. It's kind of cool. And then finally, Indiana and Harvard, if you've been over on the north side of Liberty Lake, there is a new signal going in on Indiana. It's being put in by the developer. And there's some, I think, supply chain challenges, but that as soon as it gets constructed and there's some utility coordination, then that signal will be activated. I believe that improvement is being paid for with TIF and LIFT dollars. Councilmember Dunn, you had a question?
Hey, this is just a super quick ask, Katie. Could you just see that cool sign that said "merge like a zipper" is somehow preserved? Like, get Steven or Jen to find a corner to throw that back in the shed, because I mean, I wish it had collected that one four-way stop sign that said Mission and Moulter. Just, we're gonna have a gallery as this city grows of some great moments of its history. So that's gonna be one of them.
And you know what's interesting about Merge Like a Zipper? There's people that loved it and there's people that hated it. And so it really provokes different opinions. So we would love to save it in perpetuity. And then finally, on the event side, we all know Farmers Market is continuing and ongoing through, I think, the first week of October or thereabouts. And then, of course, the ribbon cutting ceremony that I already mentioned is tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Hope to see some of you there. Mayor, that concludes my.
You skipped recruitment, but before you go back to that, with regards to construction, the light at Ridgeline, I know when you and I talked last week, I know the PD was watching that to see if there may be any required changes to the signal timing or striping for the left turn lane. How's that been going?
So are we talking about I'm sorry, Mayor, were we talking about Country Vista by the high school?
Yes.
Okay, in looking at it with Brian Asmus, as well as our chief and some other technical folks that have a background in programming traffic signals, we've decided to kind of hold off on making any adjustments on our signal until what we call the internal circulation of the high school gets addressed. What we noticed during peak hours was if we gave more yellow time on Country Vista to turn in, that there was a saturation within the internal circulation. So it would not help getting people what we call the progressive yellow arrow. So because there was nowhere for them to go. It's, all things considered, it seems to be working very well. I know Damon is tracking it as well. There's a little bit of concerns with parents dropping off kids on Country Vista so they can walk into the new high school. But so far, so good. I would say it's a safe environment, and there's just a lot of cars at the beginning of the day.
Thanks for the update. Do you want to cover recruitment?
Yes, and Annie has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Councilmember Kurtz.
Can I ask a question just of Katie, just because it's related to Ridgeline? I noticed that there's a lot of kids walking eastbound on the sidewalks. Is there a plan to make sure that those are plowed for the kids when the snow flies?
That's a great question. Right now, the management company for the property, the adjacent property, handles that. And I can't tell you over the years how many times I've seen a guy with a snowblower going up and down the sidewalk. But we'll follow up, because I think with kids going earlier in the day, that's different than what they had last year. And so maybe Jen and I can follow up with the property owner and see if they continue to do that.
Great, thank you.
And then on recruitment, I jumped over number 7. The city clerk recruitment is complete. We did receive a lot of very qualified applicants. And tonight on your agenda is the mayor's recommendation to appoint Kelsey Wright to that position. The engineer applications, we received quite a few. We've done some preliminary screening, and we have final interviews on Friday with the mayor, and I are going to interview with Lisa. I will mention on the engineer interview, we got some really good applicants, and we're really looking for someone that has a really strong customer service perspective, as well as all the technical skills to fill that position. Also on the permit technician, that vacancy was created when Kelsey is hopefully going to be appointed to our city clerk. That recruitment is underway, and I know we're getting applications there. So it's not so much that there's a void of the number of applications, we're getting a lot. It takes time, and Heidi's going through all those applications to elevate those that have the qualifications that we're looking for.
Thank you. Okay,
I just dropped
all
some.
right. I guess we are on to workshop discussions. So first we have our WashDOT update on Harvard. Tom, you are up.
All right, can you all hear me?
You can.
All right. Thank you, everyone. My name is Tom Brash. I'm with the Washington State Department of Transportation. Currently the project engineer on the Harvard Road overpass and the Kramer Road project. I'd like to first start out by thanking everyone for having me here, and specifically to Katie Allen and her crew with Ben Schmidt and Lisa Key, helping my team manage both Harvard and now getting on with Kramer. Although it's a state highway and a state project on that right of way, ultimately the users are the community out there at Liberty Lake. So anytime we had a traffic control question or issue, or even an idea to maybe do the project a little bit more efficiently, safer, or quicker, they were always there to help us and provide their input and their support for us building that project. In terms of Harvard, Katie is correct. Yeah, we have all 3 lanes open now. So that was the goal, was to widen the bridge 1 extra lane to the east, which would provide 2 lanes northbound. 1 drops off at the loop ramp, the other one continues north. That opened up on the 17th. And yes, we are still doing some work on the bridge. We still have a few items yet to complete. One would be the bridge railing on top of the ridge barrier. As Katie mentioned, on a signal project that you're currently working on, we too are experiencing material procurement issues. And that's one of them, that metal railing that they put on top of there. Just about every construction project WashDOT has had this summer has had many different procurement issues on a variety of different items, much of which we've never had before. So some of this is unique to us, but at a time when you're trying to get complete and be 100% done, you're 2 weeks out because the supplier is still yet to get you that product. So you will see traffic control, most likely at night while we install that railing on top of the barrier. And then most effort during the day will be demobilization efforts of the contractor, get all their equipment off site, get all those areas outside the roadway cleaned up. The slopes will come back in October and hydro seed all of those so that we restore the vegetation. And then last item of work that you'll see happening on Harvard, which will be next spring when the weather allows, is the permanent striping. The striping that's out on the roadway today is just paint markings. We were intending to install plastic. And as mentioned before, that too has had a long lead time. The contractor is not expecting to get that material until late into October, early November. And by that time, the weather's not going to be conducive. It's going to be too cold and potentially wet. And I hope it's wet, not snowy and icy. But because of that, we've decided to suspend time, and we'll come back in April, May, when weather allows, and give us 2-3 nights. We should be able to get the plastic striping installed, but that would happen next year. Katie did mention that we have our ribbon cutting tomorrow. That's an exciting event. We'll have some speakers there from both WashDOT, contracting agency, city as well, and other distinguished members and guests. It's a ribbon cutting, so as far as I can explain on that, should be self-explanatory. In terms of where we're at with the schedule on the project, we are tracking right on time. We would be complete if we hadn't had a couple of procurement issues such as the striping, but all in all, the project did get completed on the time that it was allotted. And in terms of the budget, we are also tracking very close to the budget of which we started at when project was awarded last fall. So if there's any questions on Harvard, I can take those. Okay.
Tom, I'm gonna
Yeah,
add something. I just wanted to recognize you and your team and Larry Larson. We have monthly team meetings by Zoom to check in on the money. We have our own little matrix that we track because it's a little bit confusing. And so maybe, Mayor, this is a reminder to the council and all and everyone, is that there's 3 projects: Barker, Harvard, and Kramer. And all 3 of those projects, and I don't have the exact figure, are like 26 point some million dollars. Anything over we in Liberty Lake agreed to pay for 6 million of those dollars plus overages. And so when Tom says that we're tracking, we check in monthly and we check to see where we are with what was budgeted. And we're tracking really close, but also we're trending a little high. I'll mention that. I don't want there to be surprises, but we won't know until all 3 projects are done and closed out exactly the right number. But Tom, I wanted to be honest with I wanted to be forthcoming with our council and let them know that some of the trend is a little bit high.
That would be a fair statement to say, Katie. At this point, it is a little early to kind of summarize all 3 projects. Kramer has yet to start, even though the bids opened up slightly over what was estimated. That being said, there's always opportunities to recapture some of that cost. But like you said, working with you and Kyle on those monthly status meetings, those budget meetings, Kyle's on the phone here tonight. We've been able to kind of work through it and kind of see where we're at in terms of the budget. So that's correct. So thank you to Kyle as well.
We look forward to seeing you and everybody tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
Yes, thank you. Katie, did you want me to continue a quick update on Kramer?
Yes, please. Let's see,
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. Kramer, which is another big project. It's one of the 3 projects that were mentioned in terms of the Connecting Washington projects that the money was advanced for the agency and the locals and the state to kind of partner with and actually, deliver. And we are. So Kramer Road, we are slated to begin construction here starting in October. The contractor for Harvard, which was N.A. Dagerstrom, a local firm, they too won the bid for Kramer. And logistically, demobilizing off of Harvard and then moving straight over to Kramer, the timelines are about what they were able to do in terms of workforce and subcontracting and material procurement. So they did have ambitions to start maybe earlier, late August, September, but in actuality, with their efforts on Harvard, it kind of delayed that. So we're looking to have a pre-construction meeting next week, which would outline the details of their schedule. But I would look for work to be happening on the bridge first, probably out in they're asking to start work in the middle of I-90, get the piers up in that center pier first, and then move to the outside. Obviously, the water line work to relocate the water line that's under, or it's actually not under, but very near our pier on the north side of the bridge. That'll happen next early spring timeframe. That's when they're expecting to get the casing material and the pipe material delivered to the project site. So I think outside of the work you've seen out there's a lot of stakes in the ground, a lot of ribbons. They've done a staging yard on the south side near Country Vista, and they fenced off their job trailer and whatnot. Outside of that, I'd give it about a month from now, you're going to see some more work starting to take place. And depending on the winter, we might work through winter, we might shut down, but at least before Christmas, you'll start to see what's going to start taking shape as the overcrossing of I-90 in the median. Okay. All right. Well, see no questions. I thank you for your time.
I've got a quick one for you, Tom. I hate to open this can of worms. How how are the vaccine mandates for state, I know the state workers affecting these projects? Because I heard a lot about it affecting subcontractors as well.
Well, generally speaking, speaking of state DOT first, it will have some impact on workforce. To what degree, we're starting to really see that now. You know, there will be a small percentage of people that'll probably not be vaccinated by the time the 18th comes around. The degree of which it'll affect the project is still yet to be seen. You know, I think all of us here, I've heard it a couple of times online, we're doing more with less. And I think it's going to be a reality. We'll probably still be doing more with even just a tad bit lesser. I think that would be the reality from a state workforce standpoint. But contractors, their first response to the proclamation is that they are concerned about workforce. They feel that there's a larger percentage of their workforce that may just choose to move on to a different state, you know, and take a job elsewhere. A lot of these types of jobs are nomadic, if you will. They go where the work is, and they may even travel between different companies just to get that work. So off the cuff, they've responded that it could have an impact to their ability to deliver. Again, I think until we get to that date, until we actually are there on the 18th, I think we're still a little speculative on how severe it will be. Obviously, Dagerstrom, it feels confident that they can get some work done with their crew. That's why they're starting on the bridge. They're contained within their company, not a lot of subcontractors that they would have to deal with, maybe just one or two. As they expand the work into the springtime and add more subcontractors on, there could be some difficulty to perform, but then again, by next spring, you know, speculating here, there's a chance that the contractors are rebuilding their workforce a little bit. I hope that helped answer some of the question there. Hello? Yes. Another question?
Yeah, I'm just going to say somebody thinks they lost audio, but I've been able to understand and listen to you carefully, Tom. Thank you for your remarks tonight. I'm grateful for the work done by WashDOT.
You're welcome. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
It appears we've lost the audio from the conference room at the City Hall.
That means the meeting's over?
This happened
We'll
last
see.
So let's, I suppose, you know, without being too forward, we pause for a second and try to let them get that restored. Thanks, guys.
So Tom, question while we're in a idle moment. I heard you say we will potentially then continue work up until, and you guys make a call about the seasonality of this. You know, guys will be on site working, so to speak, well into, well, you will foresee when we'll be able to say stop for the season.
Well, when we start projects this late in the season, the fall winter season, really it just depends on what work the contractor is doing and at what cost do they want to incur doing it. So if they're starting the bridge work, they have to look at added cost to their concrete delivery, added cost to cure it properly, basically keep it insulated and warm. You don't want to freeze it. And if they're still doing the bridge work, which they should be in December, January, if the temperatures are mild and we're talking in the, you know, the 20s and 30s, then they might continue on with that work. It's when we get those deeper freezes, extended freezes, and then you add some moisture to it. If you remember back this past year, we kind of saw a very mild winter until we got into January. And then about mid to late January through the first part of February, all of a sudden we got a lot of snow and ice and colder weather. You know, that's the time when the contractor will say, you know, it's not conducive to efficient working, and sometimes not conducive to safe working, especially if we do traffic control out on the interstate. We don't like them doing that type of work if we're going to have inclement weather. So, you know, we'll push it through November. We'll see how that goes. You know, but December, January, that could be, you know, we'll just have to wait and see how that weather shapes out for us.
Great. Thanks for the clarification.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, guys, glad you were able to keep that going. We lost audio here in the chambers, and I swear I did not kick the cord this time. So, go ahead, Councilmember Sawyer.
Yeah. My question is for Katie. Earlier, you said we're trending a little bit higher. Everybody has a different version of a little bit. Are we talking hundreds, thousands, millions?
I'll be yeah, I'm unmuted. So we were doing some projections and it was in the neighborhood of about $200,000.
Yeah, thank you.
So what we're doing, we're tracking trends and, you know, we won't know till all the projects are closed out. But right now we're in that $200,000 range.
I like your little bit.
Anybody else? All right, thanks so much, Tom. We appreciate you being here with us, and we'll see you tomorrow.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
If you're so inclined, stick around, as long as you don't bill us for the time. All right, next we added the CFP 2022 workshop to our workshop discussions here tonight. So we'll go ahead and turn things over to Lisa Key.
Mayor, I thought the council discussion on council appointments was before this on the agenda. I don't mind doing it.
Well, we're going to put you first. We'll get through the ordinances very quickly.
Okay, thank you. Todd, can you pull up my presentation, please? Next slide, please. So I'm just, I just hold this up. I don't expect you to be able to read this, but if you wanted to look at the capital facilities plan, it is on page 26 of your packet. I wanted to point out to you that while we are going to change the format of this a little bit this year to do this by sections, chapters, much like we did with the Transportation Improvement Program, I wanted to give you the first, your first look following the same format as we've previously used so that you can track this with the previously adopted capital facilities plan and the Transportation Improvement Program. Next slide, please. So we're offering this, preliminary draft of the CFP just as an opportunity to start a conversation. However, along the lines of the timeline, if council wishes to provide the mayor with initial input on the 2022 projects to be included in the 2022 budget, we'll need to get that feedback by October 5th, which is why we're suggesting a workshop on the 5th. Workshops can continue on through November 16th. But after the 16th, your meeting on the 16th, we will have to post the SEPA and do the public hearing notice. At that point, that becomes the document that's going forward to your hearings and that you will approve or approve with amendments or whatever. We will have a public hearing for it on December 7th. And the CFP does need to be adopted at the December 21st council meeting. Again, the CFP goes forward and is adopted in the same time frame as the budget. Next slide, please. So we started out sharing the prioritization matrix. I heard last time we were talking about the upcoming capital facilities plan, the desire by some council members to be able to go through that prioritization exercise again. I have not gotten complete information from all council members, but so this is only a partial rating, but I thought I'd share it with you. This was again how facilities came out. There were some council members who proposed deleting some items. So I kept a tally of who was proposing items to be deleted from this for purposes of your discussion. I would ask that the council members who have not yet gotten me your prioritization matrix, that perhaps in advance of the October 5th meeting, that you could provide that to me so that this truly reflects information from the full council. Next slide, please. Again, similarly, these were the priorities for transportation, but it's not a complete story. Next slide, please. The same is true for the pedestrian projects. Now, again, this is a first round effort. I have provided all of you with the capital facilities plan spreadsheet for you to take a look at. I can, if you'd like me to take a few minutes to explain what's changed, I can do that, but I do know that the hour is late, so it's really your call whether I stop here and we continue this on October 5th, or whether you want an opportunity to just chat a little bit about what you've seen, or if you want to hear what the changes are that in this first draft we are proposing.
Councilmember Dunn.
I'd like to see every member of the city's council provide the input to you, Lisa, insofar as the matrix values. So if there hasn't been a respondent, I'd rather the council consider the information when it is fully presented.
That is wonderful. Thank you.
I don't see any other comments, Lisa.
At this point, no. I'll have a little bit more detailed presentation for you on the 5th, but I think I had all of 12 slides to begin with, so it's not a ton of information, but really an opportunity for you to give us some input. So thank you, and I'll look forward to talking to you more on October 5th.
Oh, Councilmember Curtis, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you, Lisa, for putting this together and getting the grid set up for us and everything. And it looks like you've even got like a little heat map thing going on here, which I appreciate. So thank you for that. And I look forward to seeing the full results when you get those compiled.
Awesome.
Thank you. All right, so we will move on to council discussion on ordinances 5, 7, 32, 33, 34, and 35. This is not quite as daunting as it looks. So thank you for putting that up there. There's a summary that I put together, so it makes life a lot easier for everyone. You can make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so these ordinances date back pretty much to the beginning of the city's history, so now 20 years. They created some offices that no longer exist. They have things in them that we've never done. So the thought was to take these ordinances and clean them up, consolidate where possible, to make things as easy to follow as possible and up to date. So just at a high level, I'll just go through the proposal that I sent to everybody. So Ordinance 5 created an auditing officer. My thought was to repeal this one since we have a treasurer, or change it to say treasurer. I'll get through all of these before we take questions, just so you know. Ordinance 7 required an oath of office and bonding for certain positions, but not others. We have never no one has ever done the bonding as far as we could find. So again, the thought here was to either to repeal this and add the oath of office to the new consolidated ordinance. Ordinance 32 created the position of police chief. And the thought here is to repeal this one and put it in a consolidated ordinance. 33 was interesting. It created a combined office of city clerk and treasurer. So we do not have a city clerk treasurer position. We have a treasurer. So the thought there is to repeal that one. Todd, you can scroll up for me. So ordinance 34 created the city attorney. Just a quick review is probably needed for potential updates, but this one, in my observation, needs to stay on its own because it's a whole separate process on how we go about finding and approving city attorney. Ordinance 35 created the city administrator position. Again, looking at repealing that, putting in a new one. So the result of all that, assuming there's no questions or concerns about the proposal, is to consolidate into a new ordinance the requirement for the mayor to appoint and the council to confirm the following positions: city administrator, police chief, and all directors. Because if you look back on those ordinances, nowhere will you find library director, you won't find finance director, you won't find director of planning and engineering services, you won't find operations and maintenance director. So we have a lot of director positions, they're very high level, that the council, in my opinion, should be involved in with approving those appointments. So again, consolidate into one ordinance, city administrator, police chief, and all director positions, and then include in that the requirement of the oath of office that is included in ordinance number 7. And then that would leave the city attorney ordinance to stand alone. Then we're down to 2 ordinances from 6 or 5. So I know that was a lot. Any questions, concerns? My hope would be that we could, get through this pretty quick. Obviously, we would, as we're going through these, and luckily the ordinances were fairly short, make sure we put it together in an orderly fashion, so it's much more easy to navigate and makes a lot more sense than going back and having to go through 5 of them that we haven't really been following closely. Councilmember Dunn.
So procedural overview, the repeal of an ordinance involves just a vote in the city's council meeting.
It based on all of the ordinance reading I've been doing over the last month, the repeal, I believe, and Sean or even Kyle jump in, correct me, I believe we would account for the repealing of those in the new ordinance.
Mayor, that's correct. We would just have an ordinance that is a repealing ordinance that would come before the council for approval.
Great, thanks.
Member Floyer, then Councilmember Lansford.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me? Yep, you can hear me. I guess not to take anything away from all the effort ordinances together, does anybody have any thoughts as to why in the beginning it was formatted this way to have an ordinance for each individual position? No?
Mayor Brian Asmus.
I think there were.
Mayor, I was going to say Brian Asmus is on the line. Maybe he could shed some light on it.
Yeah, former chief, you were around at that time. I hate to put you on the spot, but we're going to anyway.
Well, it was a long time ago. But, if you think about the formation of the city, all these, initial positions, they didn't all come about at the same time. And so individual ordinances were created as positions were added to the city. So if you think about the police chief's position, that did not come into play until after the city had already been in business for 6 months, 7 months. And so that's my guess really, is that, the individual ordinances were created because people came on at different times at the formation of the city.
Thank you.
I had Councilmember Langford and then Councilmember Sievers.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I see no fault in the way that you've outlined it. and would support having the ordinance drawn up for repeal as noted and move forward with the positions.
Thank you. Councilmember Severs.
Yeah, I just agree with that. I appreciate the clarity. I like how you're suggesting the new ordinance would read, just regarding a blanket statement about all directors.
Thank you. Anybody else have a comment? Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with the previous comments. I think what needs to be addressed also, if possibly in a separate ordinance or resolution, is that when it comes to the appointment of all commissioners in regards to Planning Commission, Parks and Arts, and of course, any new organization that we form.
Yeah, and I've been going through most of those, and I know you and I talked earlier, two separate discussions, but all the ordinances I found so far do call for for the council to confirm appointments to the commissions. But we'll double check all of them, make sure it's in there.
Just for uniformity and clarification.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your input. This will clean some things up, and I look forward to Kelsey taking on the role of helping get through some of these ordinances as she comes on board and tries to make them a little bit easier to navigate. Okay, so that brings us to general business.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Under general business, A, consent agenda. Motion to approve the September 7, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. And item number 2, approve the September 21st, 2021 vouchers and August payroll in the amount of $588,209.72.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Councilmember Langford. Any questions, discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor of approving the consent agenda? Oh, Councilmember Dunn? Or are you just getting ahead of me on the question? You guys are quick. All right.
Just
all
saying
in
aye.
favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And item B, action items. Motion to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with Northwest Municipal Advisors to secure financing for Trailhead Improvement Project.
Second.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Langford. And I do believe we do have some discussion on that. Katie, I forgot who was presenting this. Katie, I couldn't remember who was presenting this from the staff.
Oh, my apologies. Okay. Sorry about that. So yeah, this is obviously to help navigate us through the bond council process and secure our funding for the Trailhead project. And maybe an item of clarification I probably should have put in the agenda bill was that procurement of personal services, of which, you have financial services, you have legal services, management analysis, things of that nature. Local governments have a lot of flexibility on how they solicit their, how they go into negotiations for these agreements. And a little bit of history with Northwest Municipal Advisors. So they've been working with the previous finance director and the previous administration for upwards of 5 years, I believe, on strategies and discussions on when the city was ready to proceed with trailhead improvements and providing some guidance to previous council, mayor, and city staff. And so they are an independent advisory firm. So one thing to look out for when you are soliciting for competition, especially for financial services, a lot of advisors are connected to banks or other institutions. And so while they have a responsibility to provide unbiased opinions and lowest cost alternative, they have other monetary interests if you go a certain route versus another. Northwest Municipal Advisors does not. And so I'd like to field any questions on this process at all, if anybody has any.
What's their cost?
Not to exceed $20,000, and that is and that's stated in their contract. They have certain items that they include. And so it's become a little bit archaic. So what entities used to do is they used to send a representative or two. They would used to fly them out to New York for the bond sales. And so you have these expenses incurred at the close of these bonds that really don't take place anymore. And so that was kind of the major one that I had to clear up with them. And they haven't had any added expenses on any of their contracts, they said, for the last 10 years.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I add some additional information about Trailhead? Somehow it got removed from my report and I didn't cover an update to the council. I'll make it very, very brief. This Thursday, myself and Lisa and Chris Johnston, and I'm hoping that Councilmember Foyer can join us. We will be making a presentation to the PRC to hopefully get approval for design build. So we're moving forward fairly quickly. What I really wanted to mention is the importance of the restaurant component of our project. And so in conversations with the mayor and some other folks, what we're thinking of doing is hiring a commercial broker to assist us in identifying restaurants that may have an interest in giving us a proposal. Chris Johnston, our pro, heading up a selection committee. And then the mayor, you had an idea that we would ask that each council member identify a member of the community that could participate in the selection process of a restaurant. There's a lot of different kind of restaurants out there, and we thought that getting community input would be very valuable. So Mayor, go ahead and add anything that I missed.
Yeah, and we don't necessarily have to have a community, 7 community members, but we'd love to get your thoughts on people that might have some background and have a varying experiences in different phases of life, because we're hoping to appeal to everyone, not just the golfers, but the families, the empty nesters, the young couples without kids, because it truly will be a community facility and community restaurant. So I'm really looking, and since we won't have the community engagement commission probably fully up to speed at that point, would really love to have you guys suggest some people that we contact, see if they'd be willing to participate. I've contacted one from my side just to get some feedback, and so if you can get those to us, just think about it. We don't need them right away, but really that's a valuable part of the process, because this is going to be a very important project that's going to affect us for years and years to come. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Talking about the restaurant, I think it's also going to be exciting and fun thing to be involved in this and look at who we can add to our city. One thing I would cautionary, when you mentioned that we will have a realtor assist us with that, my assumption is we will make sure that we have a realtor who specializes in this type of industry. It's not in the retail or not in the residential and stuff.
Absolutely. We've been in contact with a commercial broker who does this kind of exact same restaurant venue in the Logan neighborhood, which is where Gonzaga is. And so we're looking for someone that brings a lot of experience and qualifications to the table.
So Councilmember Foyer, and then, Councilmember Foyer, then Councilmember Garcia, then Councilmember Kurtz.
Thank you, Mayor. Say, Kyle, you said earlier that the fee for this service is 20,000.
Correct.
Is that negotiable? Because as I'm reading this document, it says $1.25 per thousand with a minimum fee of 20,000. So if I do the math on 8.4, we're well under the 20,000. So I'm just curious if there's any room for negotiation there.
So I did discuss that with them. You can do bond sales for as little as, $200,000. And so they have a threshold where that is met. And I want to say the threshold that he said was 2 million, and we were in excess of that by a fair margin.
So no room for negotiation.
Sorry. No.
Next staff training, when it's yes or no question, you can answer yes or no. Okay. All right, we have Councilmember Garcia next.
You mentioned getting the community involved, which is always a great idea. that might be one of the reasons we can use our reader board. And on that board, advertise in part that we're looking for community input. We're looking for community engagement in regards to this issue. If we start using that board, it would legitimately make a lot of sense when we're going out to ask the community to be a part of something, because there may be people we don't know who would want to be part of it, and they're not in the scope of usual suspects who would raise their hand. So if we can perhaps use that also as an advertisement to getting more input on this item.
Thank you. And then Councilmember Kurtz.
And I think I have two questions, and they're both in line with what Councilmember Garcia was just talking about regarding community engagement and the restaurant piece. Is there like kind of a ballpark timeframe you guys are looking to have like the committee and that input?
Yes, so let me just jump in. Our goal is to have the design builder identified and their contract brought back to you in mid-December.
Okay.
And immediately following that would be, we hope, a contract with a restaurant, because the development of the restaurant component of our project needs to be concurrent with the development of our golf course facility, our pro shop.
Okay. My follow-up, I think, comment then would be, we've talked about thought exchange a little bit and the opportunity to do the test drive. I'm wondering if this might possibly be a way also to reach out to the community, since I think that we're looking at hopefully a restaurant that a wide swath of our residents will use. I'm just wondering if their input on what kind of restaurant they might want to have might be a good use of that test drive. Just something to think about, because I think if we wanted to do something like that, we've got to figure out how to get the QR codes out and the methodology to do that, and that would take a little bit of legwork too.
Great ideas. Thank you for the input. Anybody else? Okay. Is there any further discussion on action item 3? Not seeing any. All in favor of approving the agreement with Northwest Municipal Advisors, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item number 4, motion to authorize the mayor to sign parametrics task order 2021-03 for Public Works Yard building and final site improvements design.
Second.
Second.
There's a second by Councilmember Kurtz. Discussion, I'm assuming, Lisa, are you working this one?
Yes, so we are moving forward with the design for the Public Works building and the final site improvements, parking, etc. The intent is for us to complete the design and get it bid in this calendar year, with the actual construction to occur next year.
Do you have any questions for Lisa on this one? I know we've been talking a lot about Public Works Yard for a long time now. Councilmember Follier.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, my question is, Lisa, once the design is done, will the council have a chance to review it before it goes out for bid?
Typically, you would not. We could certainly do a presentation or a workshop where you could see the design and the cost estimate. And, I would certainly want to, I will move forward with that. You will see in the capital facilities plan that we do have an updated engineer's cost estimate for the building, and it's gone up about a little bit over 500,000. It's based upon inflation and material cost, et cetera, at this point.
So is it's not a problem, or it is?
It's so typically you wouldn't be approving the design. But you would have the opportunity to see to see what the design looks like and to see what the engineer's cost estimate is, and you could at that point say, no, we don't want to go forward with that.
Okay.
So Mayor, I could offer some, I hope, help. So the project had a budget and it had a scope, I believe, and Lisa, jump in and help me out if I don't remember the details correctly. It had a budget and a scope, and you and I had talked about, because of the escalating construction market, perhaps phasing it and moving forward with the parts of the project that were within our budget. Councilmember Foyer, are you thinking of looking at the design because of the scope elements in it, or the details of how it's going to be executed?
No, I mean, as I look at this proposal, I see scope of work, I see numbers, estimates to do the work. And then I get down to the bottom and I see a really cool hand drawing of the facility. And I'd just like to see something that provided by, I mean, it's a really nice job of the hand drawing, don't get me wrong. I've seen worse, but
okay, so I think what you're asking for is that we provide information to the council regarding the project elements and describing what's included in the project, a little more detail. And so Lisa, we could make a presentation to the council so they have a better understanding of what's included in the project.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
We had Councilmember Langford's hand up, and then Mayor Pro Tem. Oh, okay, nothing? All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. In addition, just to follow up on Councilman Folger's comment, I, as a council member, before that goes out for bid, I really want to see a drawing roughly showing square footage you were allocating for the restaurants, for golf side, things of that sort there. What I would be concerned about if it suddenly comes back to the council and we're too far down the road where we look at this and say, hold it, we're not in agreement that X number of square feet should be given to the restaurant, maybe more should be given to the golf side.
This is on the public works yard.
My apologies,
Works yard.
Mayor Pro Tem, and maybe I misunderstood, but I thought we were talking about the Public Works facility. And again, we do know what the square footage is. It's going to be 5,000 square feet. And we do have, I mean, I can certainly share with you what the elements are, but I would just deferring to Councilmember Foyer's request, I absolutely, before we take this out to bid, can give you a presentation on what's included, what the cost estimates are. And, you know, you certainly would have obviously we don't award any contracts without your authorization. But if we needed to pull back on even going out to bid, that's something that you certainly would have the power to do.
Yeah, at least I think we're on the same page.
Lisa, I appreciate you doing that because I have so many notes scribbled on here. I suddenly looked at this and said, well, hold it. There's going to be a restaurant there? Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
I don't know, the crew might like a restaurant at the Public Works yard, never know.
That was good, I love it.
Okay, are there any more questions for Lisa on the parametrics task order? Not seeing any. All in favor of authorizing the parametrics task order number 2021-03, please say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? All right, ayes have it, 7-0.
Very good. So I don't confuse myself, we will now look at action item number 5, motion to authorize mayor to sign parametrics task order 2021-04 for Kramer Parkway partial reconstruction design, which does not include a restaurant. Thank you.
Second.
Yeah, always good to be able to laugh at yourself. We had a second from Councilmember Stevens, I believe. So Lisa, I believe this is yours as well, and I do see, just if you could clarify during your comments, this does say budgeted no, if you can address that, I'm sure that question will be asked.
Yeah, so in this particular case, as you will recall, Kramer Parkway, this was originally planned for a grind and overlay in 2023 or 2024. I don't remember the exact year. But last year, the roadway blew up and we were able to do a partial repair. We went in and did some geotechnical evaluation, and it was determined that we had to do this partial reconstruction in order to avoid damage to the subbase, which would cause us to do a full reconstruction for a heck of a lot more money. And so this is a situation where time is of the essence. We have applied for a TIB grant for the construction of this this improvement, and we will be finding out in November whether or not we get the grant funds. We won't actually be constructing it until the spring, but if we do the design now, it will enable us to get out there, get the bids, and be able to begin construction in early spring. And so that is the intent. We have enough savings in other capital projects, and I can defer to Kyle on that, that we can cover the cost. We have the dollars available, and if necessary, we can address it as a budget amendment at the end of the year. But at this point, we do have streets dollars available to do this design work. It's just that the project itself was not budgeted. Kyle, did you want to weigh in on that at all?
I'll just echo your sentiments that, you know, these things come up and emergencies happen. And I think this definitely qualifies as kind of a heightened priority. And so that's what the budget amendment process is for. And so we do have the funds to take care of this. And we can look at that as a possible budget amendment if needed at a council meeting at the end of the year.
Questions? I know I'm excited to see, based on the numbers on the agenda bill, that the TIB grant will cover approximately 80% of the cost. So another good use of our utility tax being matched for the grant money. Do we have any questions for Lisa or Kyle?
Are those costs only for the design?
So the budget, this task order is only going to cover the design. The estimate for the estimate that we have for the construction right now is hold on a second, I'm going to find it on here on my capital facilities plan. Is 1,000. It's 1.52 million. But again, we also have, that's the fully loaded cost. We also have some of those funds being covered by Liberty Lake Water and Sewer District and DR Horton. As you, if you will recall, we are coordinating utilities with this project. So that's the fully loaded cost. And we'll see what the bids come in at, but that's right now the engineer's cost estimate. And given inflation and material cost right now, he has a pretty high contingency factor. So, but that's the engineer's estimate at this point.
Okay, Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to take this opportunity to remind the council that earlier we were going through the capital facilities plan for the next couple of years. And I think it's important that as we go through these action items and our prior knowledge of what's going to be taking place in the next year, that we approach with caution any type of overloading from the capital facilities plans to add to our 2022 capital outlay. We are hearing already that we've got some overruns coming up from Trailhead, well, not from Trailhead, but from the Harvard and Kramer. We don't know exactly what it's going to be taking for Trailhead yet. So this is another $1 million project that we got coming. So let's just be careful what we're going to be doing with that capital facilities plans when we really don't know how much money we're already on the hook for. Thank you.
Thank you for the input. Greatly appreciated. Any other comments or questions? Councilmember Follier?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. See, Lisa, as I'm looking at where the start and stop point is of the project on the in the packet, how does that interlace, or how does that interact with the Kramer overpass? Who goes first? We're not going to have to go backwards and go forwards to make the connection. Those kinds of questions.
That is absolutely correct. That will be addressed as part of the design, and we are the project will tie into what we're basically stopping at the point at which the Kramer Parkway project starts. We will be done with this project. Our intent is to get it bid, and we'll be done by early summer with this project.
So this will be done before the Kramer overpass, obviously. Okay.
Yes, and they're planning on starting at the other end.
Lisa, I'd also like to add to Councilmember Foyer's question. So basically, Parametrics will take the realignment of the intersection of Country Vista and Kramer on the south leg of that, and then they will tie into it directly. So when everything is done, from the Kramer overpass to the Kramer overlay, if you will, it'll all be continuous.
Yes.
So it's all connected.
Thank you.
There are no more questions. I'll go ahead and call for a vote. So all of those in favor of signing Parametrics Task Order 2021-04 for Kramer Parkway, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Hearing none opposition, motion passes 7-0.
Very good, thank you. Action item number 6, authorize mayor to sign contract with R&R Heating and Air Conditioning for City Hall heating, ventilation, and air conditioning upgrades not to exceed $117,000.
Second.
Okay, got a second from Councilmember Kurtz. I'm sure there's discussion and questions on this one. Do we want to let, who's going to present this one, Trevor?
Correct.
Trevor, you want to give us a little bit of update on the quote and what we've learned in the process?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. So we received competitive quotes, and we have the option to include the air purification systems within the original quote or keep within the original one. And with that would be changing out the 4 HVAC units with the condenser units included. So it'd be an all brand new system without new ductwork for that price included, or we can include the air purification units within that as well. That was requested by council.
Great. So Trevor, just to confirm, the $117,000 that's in the agenda item includes those air purification systems, correct?
Correct. That does include the air purification systems.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Trevor, outstanding. I'm really pleased to hear that that's been included. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when we talked about this before, I seem to recall the figure of $110,000. Now it's 117. Is the air treatment systems, is that the difference in price? Do I remember the 110,000 correctly?
I believe the 110. So I believe the 110 is probably with the contingency. Katie, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was with the contingency included in the original without the air purification. And then now the total being presented to you tonight is with the air purification included, the product and the contingency.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Appreciate the effort you put forward there.
Any other questions? Councilmember Dunn and then Councilmember Follier.
Question, Trevor, are there any changes to the intended schedule for the project with this inclusion?
So the project still is on schedule for, I guess, essentially the contract being awarded with materials, equipment right now, not just in the US, but worldwide, kind of being not at a standstill, but very slow. Right now, we're looking at least 2 months upon approval based on what R&R Heating is telling us. So with that approval tonight, contract signed within the next couple days, at least 2 months upon a start of the dismantling and installation of the new units right now.
Councilmember Follier, I think you were next.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me? Yep. I know this is really getting in the weeds, but kind of reminds me of the square into a round hole concept. We worked out the access hole for the crawl space.
So still working with our building inspectors right now, but I have been working with R&R since the RFP was closed and working with them, and we have a plan to make sure that we have an opening that's going to be sufficient enough for them to access both decommissioning the old units and the units in within building code and without adding more to the RFP that R&R Heating has proposed for us tonight.
You're going to handle that yourself then. That's why it's not included in the budget.
So within house, we have talked with R&R. It made more sense for us to work with our building inspectors here in house with the city of Liberty Lake, and then just our staff here, us just handle that ourselves and make it work within R&R and go from there.
Thank you.
Other questions? I do think it's interesting, speaking of all the worldwide supply chain issues, noting that the quote we got only has a lifespan of 14 days before it expires, and we're seeing that all over the place, even in my day job. So I'm glad we've got this on the agenda tonight, and looking forward to it passing. So if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and call for a vote. All those in favor of authorizing mayor to sign contract with R&R Heating, please say aye.
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 Thank you, Trevor.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0.
Action item number 7, motion to confirm appointment of new city clerk.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Councilmember Severs. Any questions, discussions? We did provide Kelsey's cover letter and resume to you last week or week before, starting to run together. So if there's any questions, I would say that the consensus after her final interview, and Kelsey, I'm glad you're on video because I don't want to see your face turn red, but she had a grand slam in her interview, and with the work that we know she's done in planning and engineering services, being permit tech and having clerked previously for some of the planning commission meetings, I think she's going to do an outstanding job. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. In reference to Kelsey coming on board, I'm very, very pleased with this. And I have to say that getting in the packet, Kelsey's complete application and also the cover letter that was so well written, in my opinion, really makes it easier for me to make a decision. My knowledge of Kelsey in the past, the last couple of years, has been very limited, running into her and visiting with her. But it was very encouraging to be able to see what her qualifications are. And it certainly makes it much easier for a council member, such as myself, to vote yes in this matter. Thank you.
And just a matter of process, we had talked earlier about the ordinances and confirming, and this is, more really a formality at this point, because we actually don't have the ordinances for clerk treasurer, but since we haven't made any updates, since the clerk title is included in that, really wanted the council to weigh in. So anybody have any other questions? Okay, So all in favor of confirming the appointment of Kelsey for city clerk, please say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? All right, 7-0. It's official, Kelsey, welcome.
Very good, thank you. Action item, last one, item number 8, motion to authorize mayor to sign a Vista lighting agreement for Harvard Parkway roundabout.
Second,
Second.
seconded by Councilmember Kurtz. Okay, Katie, were you going to present this one, or is it Lisa?
This is one's Lisa.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, as you'll recall, it's now been 2 years since the last, wreck that we had at Harvest Parkway Roundabout. And one of the things that was requested was that we increase the lighting around the roundabout. And so we approached Avista. The cost for this, it will increase our monthly rate for lighting, but it will significantly increase the lighting in and around the roundabout. We're installing 4 new lights. In addition to the monthly cost, there's also a cost for the traffic control while they install the lights. And it seems like a very inexpensive investment for improving the lighting in around the roundabout.
Lisa?
Yes.
So I think Councilmember Dunn's hands up was, oh, sorry. Councilmember Dunn's hands up was first, and then Councilmember Langford.
Hey, I'm just here with a shout out for public safety. Looking forward to creating safer conditions in our city. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Langford.
Yes, Lisa, I know that we're talking particularly about Harvest, but how is this making us look forward to making any changes at our roundabout at Harvard? Do we need to improve lighting there as well at some point?
So I believe that the lighting is actually part of the design for those improvements, and I believe that that was a consideration when WashDOT when Lochner designed Kramer.
So Councilmember Langford, having driven that roundabout last night twice, and I know there was some construction lighting at the time, but why don't we follow up with our police department and see if there's a recommendation for us to evaluate the lighting. I think most of the roundabouts we have on Mission and also on Harvard, there was lighting included in the project, and Harvest Parkway it was not. So I think we can go back and evaluate our roundabouts, but my recollection is there's lighting out there, but I want to make double sure.
Yes, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Not seeing or hearing any. All those in favor of signing the Avista lighting agreement for Harvest Parkway Roundabout, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion has it 7-0. Thank you. Now we are at public hearings and appeals. It doesn't say I didn't think we had any, but it didn't say, I thought maybe something got added that I didn't know about. Okay, so we have no public hearings or appeals tonight. Very good. All right, we're on to resolutions.
All right, so we got resolution number 21-288, City of Liberty Lake, Spokane County, Washington. Resolution of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, approving the final plat for River Crossing East, Second Edition, located in a portion of the south half of the southwest quarter of Section 9, Township 25N, Range 45 EWM, Liberty Lake, Washington.
Lisa, is there anything you wanted to walk us through on this one?
No, it's pretty straightforward. This is the second edition of River Crossing East. It's actually a relatively small plat that will tie into River Crossing 2020. It's at 1.49 acres, and I think it's creating 6 or 8 lots. My mind's fuzzy at this late hour.
Got it, yes. All right, we have a motion for resolution 21-288.
Yes, motion to approve resolution number 21-288.
We have a second.
Second.
By Councilmember Langford. All right, any further discussion? Right, not hearing any. All in favor of approving resolution 21-288, please indicate by raising your hand, and Councilmember Sievers will need a verbal from you.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, and we can see Councilmember Garcia, so that's great. So, all right, we have 7 out of 7. Just to confirm, any opposed? All right. Motion passes 7-0. All right, next one.
Resolution number 21-289, City of Liberty Lake, Spokane County, Washington. A resolution of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, approving the final plat of Tertina 5th Edition located in portions of the northeast quarter and northwest quarter of Section 10, Township 25N, Range 45 EWN, Liberty Lake, Washington.
Lisa, you would have.
Yeah, just quickly, this is the 5th edition for Tertina. It's a little bit larger than the last one. It's 100 and it's 10.95 acres and 37 lots. And it is, I think there's a few more additions after this still, so there is, but it is consistent with the final, or with the preliminary plat that was approved for this.
Thank you. Motion?
Yeah, motion. Motion to approve resolution number 21-289.
Second.
Okay, we have a second from Councilmember Sievers. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please indicate by raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Right, we have any opposed, just to make sure? Nope. All right, motion, resolution 21-289 passes 7-0. Next, on to second read ordinances.
Ordinance number 280, City of Liberty Lake, Washington, City of Liberty Lake, Spokane County, Washington. An ordinance of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, amending City of Liberty Lake development regulations regarding emergency shelters, transitional and supportive housing.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion, yes. Thank you, Mayor. Motion to approve ordinance number 280.
Second.
Okay, we have a second from Councilmember Langford. Okay, we'll open for discussion, and we'll have time for public comment since this is a second read ordinance in just a moment. Any questions or concerns from the council? Councilmember Kurtz.
I wanted to make a motion to amend the ordinance. And my motion would be to amend the citing, the situation of the transitional and supportive housing. And I wanted to open that up for council discussion to talk about the distance in between. So that's the motion, but I wanted to give more information about why I'm asking for it too.
So you want to clarify the motion, and then we'll ask for a second?
My motion is to amend the ordinance specific to the citing of the transitional housing in the amendments.
You have a second? Councilmember Dunn? Does that have a second?
Yeah.
Okay, motion is second by Councilmember Dunn. So just go ahead.
Question, if I may. I apologize, Councilman Kurtz. It's very difficult for me to hear that. Could you clarify a little more what your motion was?
A motion to amend the distance in situation of the transitional housing that's in the amendment of the proposed amendments in the ordinance.
So currently it's 2 miles. What are you, is that the one you're looking at?
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Do you want to, go ahead with your comment? Thank you.
So when we had the presentation from Lisa in the first read ordinance, and I know things are happening very fast because of the legislation and when then it has to be implemented. But something that resonated with me is that the situation or the number of facilities, the different kinds of facilities that we can have can't be situated any nearer than 2 miles within the city. We have a city that's what, 6.5 miles in square miles. And I think the intent of the legislation was to make it easier and to allow more of this type of housing in communities. And I feel like with the situation requirements, the 2 miles, I think it actually limits the ability to have the kind of transitional housing, supportive housing that we might need for our community. And I did connect with Lisa about this. The staff's recommendation had initially been that the situation would be closer than what came out in the Planning Commission's recommendations. And I can let her speak to that as well because she's much more eloquent than I am. But I wanted to bring this forward because I think that there are needs that our community may have in the future and now that this ordinance as it's written today might limit.
Annie?
Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilmember Langford.
If it's being proposed 2 miles, Councilman Kurtz, do you have a recommendation to change it to what?
The recommendation that I would have would be 3/4 of a mile.
Councilmember Langford.
Yeah, Annie, you spoke about some needs that the city has now and may have in the future. Can you expound on those?
Well, I don't know that we have any of the emergency housing and shelters in our community. If we do, I apologize. I don't know of them. But when Lisa was talking before in her presentation at the last meeting about some of the supportive housing, that would be like she gave the example of Guardian Angel as being one of those things that would fit under this ordinance. That would mean that we could only have one within 2 miles within the city limits. So whether it's any of our services for seniors, for disabled people, anything else that you could think of that requires supportive housing as is outlined in the ordinance or in the RCW, the statute that brought this forward. I think that it does limit our ability to do that and be within a 1/4 mile of the transit, which I support the way that is put in here already. But I think if you think of Guardian Angel being kind of sort of in the center of next to City Hall, next to kind of the stores and everything, you can't have anything like that within 2 miles of that. That puts something over maybe in the River District, which is a possibility as well. But the city only goes so far around Guardian Angel. There'd be essentially a radius around that where you couldn't have any of these, the emergency housing or the transitional and supportive housing, which does limit our ability to add that to the community and have it limits our ability to have that.
Councilmember Dunn.
Annie mentioned Lisa would have some also observations related to the proposed language prior to its modification through the Planning Commission. Lisa, any observations?
Sorry, originally staff had proposed a separation distance of 1/2 mile between such facilities. Planning Commission felt that was too close, and again, they expressed the intent to try and limit the number of the facilities within the city. Again, the challenge is that supportive housing covers a whole range of types of housing, and 2 miles really is restrictive. I certainly support the thought that what's the right distance is half a mile enough? And I certainly support Councilmember Kurtz's proposal to reduce that amount in order to allow for other such facilities to be located within the city. We don't know right now what our projected need is. And there's a methodology that's going to be developed by the Department of Commerce. And we will have to address this as part of our comprehensive plan periodic update, which again has to be adopted by 2025. We'll start that work in 2023, possibly even sooner. But until we have more information on the need, we can't really address whether or not the ordinance provides for adequate. But my concern is that almost certainly when we get to the point where we're doing the periodic comp plan update, we will have to adjust this ordinance if it stands at the 2 miles, because it virtually precludes most of the possible housing that may be needed, if that makes sense. And I think that one of the things too that I think that we have to be cognizant of is that at a time when we are facing a gray tsunami and an aging population who needs memory support and who needs supportive housing, it does seem to suggest that we may be limiting ourselves too much. But again, that's a decision for this council, not for myself.
Lisa, I'm going to throw a follow-up question. I believe there's a term of art in code development in which municipal can try and effectively abate or preclude an action through distance. What was that term again?
So I'm not sure what term you're looking for right now, but yeah, you can, the concept that you would provide some separation between like types of facilities so that you don't create a concentration in any one area. I think, and that is one of the things that the state legislation did provide for, was that you can do that, provided that you don't do it to such a degree that you can't address the housing need within your city. I'm not sure if I answered your question, Dan.
You did. What I'm looking for is if we presented I'll call it an ordinance which precludes, effectively eliminates the possibility of this housing addition, are we subject to liability for attempting to code out what may be a state requirement?
Potentially, yeah. I don't think that it would be, in this particular case, it would be as black and white as basically you preclude. The classic is something where free speech is involved, like adult-oriented businesses. That's a classic one, where you have to allow it somewhere in your city. Communities that try and prevent those from being located in their community will find one small area or limit the requirements such that the only place that you can locate is in an area that can't be accessed. That's the classic case study.
Thanks for
yeah.
Go ahead. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
Lisa, I've got Councilmember Garcia and then Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. My question is, can the language include a minimum distance and no greater than the maximum of 2 miles, so that we take into consideration what Member Kurtz said, and then we say, I don't know if that's what we're going to decide, but we decide what the thresholds are on both ends. And so we make ourselves available to any legislation that comes in and says, you have to have these many type facilities. So if we write the language to say from this point not to exceed 2 miles, then we've covered ourselves in probably in more ways than we could have considered before, without limiting ourselves to the unforeseen that could be coming down the pike in not too distant future. Is that a possibility?
Can I ask just a clarifying question, Councilmember Garcia, before Lisa says something? It sounds like you're saying no closer than, what did you say, 1/2 or 3/4 miles, but no farther than 2? Is that what I heard you say? 'Cause to me, that seems like it would be more restrictive.
Correct,
I may have
correct.
misunderstood you.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. So if the planning commission has recommended 2 miles, and if that could be prohibitive in what's allotted and how much of what we may need in the future. And Ms. Key is saying that it's an unknown what the distance is going to be. We may be told what it can be or what it cannot be. If we decide 3/4 of a mile distance is the closest we would like it to be, and no further than the 2 miles, if we can include that in the language. So we've covered.
So I'm not sure how exactly to implement that idea, in that when you say they can be no closer, the sighting restriction would apply to the least number. So if you say they can be no closer than 3/4 of a mile, they can be no closer than 3/4 of a mile. To have a greater, because this is a to say, but no farther than 2 miles. So what you're I don't know how you apply that in land use, because it will be developer driven. So it's not, we're not citing it. We are imposing land use restrictions on how close they can be together. We're not the citers.
Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilmember Langford.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe it's a very workable compromise to go from 2 miles to 3/4 miles that Councilman Kurtz is recommending. Thank you.
Councilmember Langford.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate Councilman Kurtz's idea of bringing it back to 3/4 of a mile. However, I have just a feeling that we're trying to solve something that we haven't encountered yet. And what I mean by that is, by our own admissions, we don't know what the city's need is yet. And we have to address this in upcoming years. So I really don't think we need to agonize over it right now, because they're going to be coming back with analysis of what our city's needs are. And then it can be readdressed at that time. And then I think we can make a much smarter decision based upon data for what our needs are. So at this point, I would vote no to change it. Thank you.
I agree with that.
Thank you, Mayor. Lisa, I think I asked you at our last discussion about this. What was the vote on the planning commission?
It was a vote of 5-2.
5-2. And having come from the planning commission, I value their opinion, and I'm sure they had a robust discussion about it. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not in favor of changing this this ordinance, because of the efforts the planning commission puts forth, and that's why we have them. My second reason for not wanting to change it is I feel like it's a state legislature, similar to what Odin just said, forcing action without understanding the need across the state. Every city is different, and until we know the need, I just don't understand sometimes the reason why we get forced to do these things. So I'm going to be in favor of leaving it as it is. Thank you.
I've got a quick process question for Lisa and then a question for the city attorney. So Lisa, just in summary, it sounds like you're saying that if we start off with 2 miles, we have the opportunity in the future as we get more data to make that radius smaller. Am I summarizing that correctly?
That is correct. In fact,
And
we'll
then,
actually have to do the analysis when we do our comp plan update to determine whether or not our ordinances are more restrictive than what demand will dictate.
Keeping in mind, we can usually go less restrictive, but we can't go the opposite and be more restrictive. Is that a correct statement?
That is a correct statement.
Okay, thank you. Just wanted to clarify that and get that summarized. So quick question for City Attorney Sean. Obviously, when we have the second read ordinance, we do have a place for citizen comments. Would it be appropriate to take that as well during this discussion for the proposed amendment, or does it need to wait until this vote on the full amendment?
No, you could take comments now if you wanted to.
I think that would be wise. So I do know that Planning Commissioner Jamie Barrett is with us, and she did request to speak. And then any other, and it looks like Chris Cargill as well, who is also from the Planning Commission. So we'll go with Jamie first, and then Chris, and take their comments on this piece of the discussion.
Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to speak regarding this. I appreciate your deliberation on this topic. Respectfully, I would ask that you take into consideration approving the amendments that the Planning Commission suggested. As pointed out, there is always the opportunity to revisit this ordinance in the future to make it less restrictive. But I think the conversation has derailed a bit in discussing memory care and things of that nature. What it can also include would be emergency housing or homeless centers as well, which our city is not equipped nor staffed to be able to cover. And that was heavy on our minds as we deliberated on this topic. So I would just ask that you take into consideration that this can be revisited annually, and that there is the opportunity to make it less restrictive should the needs of the community change. So again, respectfully, I do ask that you approve the Planning Commission's recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, Commissioner Baird. All right, next we have Commissioner Cargill.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. I just want to follow up and concur with what Jamie had to say. I'd ask you to approve the measure as amended by the Planning Commission. We had a long talk about this over several meetings. Each city in our state is trying to address this issue in their own unique way. But as was mentioned earlier by Councilmember Foyer, this is an issue that the legislature is forcing on communities all across the state. And we've come up with a unique way to address it. I'm sure other communities are going to come up with unique ways to address it. And I'm sure other communities may decide they want to ignore it. But this is a Liberty Lake solution. And as Commissioner Baird mentioned, if it needs to be changed in the future, it certainly can be changed in the future if that's what a future council decides it wants to do. So I would ask you, as Commissioner Baird did, to approve the measure as amended. And as I mentioned in the email I sent to you all this morning, had we not approved this particular amendment, I'm not sure it would have been able to come out of the Planning Commission just because of the deep discussion that we had. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we have one more public comment from Steve Peterson. Go ahead.
Hi, Steve Peterson. I agree with the comments before, especially from Jamie and the others. One of my concerns is the supportive housing definition. And I was wondering if that can be arranged so that we look at supportive housing from a standpoint of the guardian angel concept. as a definition or take that type of capability outside of the supportive housing in our land use designations. Those would be my comments.
Thank you. So Lisa, so it sounds like the question is, can we split the definition? I'm assuming that's no, but I want to go to you for your professional opinion on that.
So the definitions were actually taken directly out of the state legislation. So we don't really have the latitude to amend the definitions.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see any further questions or comments from the council. Remember, we're still discussing the proposed amendment to change the distance from 2 mile radius to 3/4. So I'll go ahead and take a vote on the amendment. So all those in favor of changing the distance requirement from 2 miles to 3/4 miles, please raise your hand. Okay, just make sure I've got it. Okay, so we have Councilmembers Kurtz, Mayor Pro Tem Kennedy, and Councilmember Dunn vote to approve the change. And write this down. And those opposed to making the proposed change, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, make sure I get everybody accounted for. And Councilmember Garcia, I can't see if you're raising your hand or not.
You know what's funny is the green screen, when I raise my hand, you can't even see it. So I couldn't see it, so I didn't know if you could see it. So mine is to change. It's a yes.
Okay, all right. So we have 4 council members in favor of making the change from 2 miles to 3/4 miles and 3 opposed. So the yays are Councilmember Garcia, Kurtz, Kennedy, and Dunn. Those opposed, Councilmember Stewart, Langford, and Follier. So it looks like we have an amendment to the ordinance number 280 to change the distance from 2 miles to 3/4. So from a process standpoint, real quick, just for Kyle and for Lisa, do you need more clarification on where that is before we move forward?
I do not, and I will be able to make the amendments relatively quickly. Kyle, I will get you an amended version of that ordinance within the next day or so.
Oh, great. Councilmember Langford.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to hear from Councilman Garcia again. I was unclear of her position. Was she voting for the amendment or against the amendment?
I'm voting for the amendment to change it to 3/4 mile.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
So so we have the motion to amend has been approved. So now we move back to, with our Jurassic Parliament, back to our main amendment, so our main ordinance. So is there further comments or clarification on the amended ordinance 280? I don't see any, and I will also just open it up, since we were back to the main ordinance, if there are any further citizen comments on the topic. Send a note to Todd in the chat feature. Give me a moment. Go ahead. Looks like we have Commissioner Cargill. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that I'm really disappointed by that vote to overrule what the Planning Commission worked so hard on. I think it sends a terrible message to people who serve on the Planning Commission and serve on other city commissions, when essentially what they were recommending to all of you is overridden at the last moment. I would suggest to you that I would be in favor now of rejecting this and letting Olympia go after the cities that don't comply, because I think it's bad policy. And as I mentioned earlier, if we're not going to have those restrictions in place, I don't think it's something that the city will want. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Checking the chat here. Todd, do you have any other follow-up comments from the public on this ordinance? Okay, not hearing any. Okay, not hearing or seeing any. One more call for any comments from the council before I call for the vote. Councilmember Garcia.
Yes. Respectfully, members of the Planning Commission, I respect what you do. I respect how you deliberate, and I do respect how you advise. My reason, although I did not have to explain it, I think it's important always to explain it. It is to allow for the unforeseen, which is a possibility. We will be getting more. There are more people here in our community or have come here to our community that will need such services. And I felt it was a bit restrictive. It is, oftentimes we are disappointed in some of the rulings that are made for our livelihood, but we don't know the foreseen. And although one might say that it can be changed, and I appreciate Commissioner Baird's recommendation that we wait because this can change. Sometimes the change may come too late for when the build out is necessary. So that is the reason I wanted to make sure the community knew my reasoning for it and not that it was a carte blanche to just go along to get along. Thank you for your consideration.
Very much. And it looks like Hugh is having some reconnecting on audio, so I'm going to wait just a moment. Make sure Hugh, are you back with us?
Thanks, I just got back. I apologize.
No, I was just getting ready to call for the vote, so I want to make sure we had you. All right, so all those in favor of approving amended ordinance number 280, please raise your hand and keep it up so I can write them down here.
I can't see my hand.
Thank you. So we have in favor, we have Councilmember Kurtz, Mayor Pro Tem Kennedy, Councilmember Dunn, Councilmember Garcia, Councilmember Severs, are you, well, I guess I'll call for any opposed, please raise your hand. So we have, sounds like Councilmember Severs, opposed, Councilmember Langford, and Councilmember Follier. So just to make sure, it looks like we have 4 in favor of approving the amended 280 ordinance. Councilmembers Kurtz, Mayor Pro Tem Kennedy, Councilmember Dunn, and Councilmember Garcia, with opposed by Councilmember Severs, Langford, and Follier. Do I have that right, everybody? Correct. For the record, okay.
Correct.
Sounds like we have passed ordinance 280 as amended. Real quick before we move to the next one, I'm noting the time. Remember, we have not changed our ordinance yet with regards to extending the meeting. We do need some more time to finish the council business. So does someone want to make a motion to extend the meeting, and it has to be unanimous, or we don't extend?
Make a motion to extend the meeting.
Until.
Second.
Hold on just a second. To what time would you like to extend it to, Councilmember Kurtz?
10:15.
All right, we have a motion to extend the meeting until 10:15 with sounds like a second from Councilmember Dunn. All right, all in favor of extending the meeting to 10:15, please say aye.
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 All right, any opposed? Okay, our meeting is now extended to 10:15. Thanks very much. We'll continue to keep an eye on the clock. All right, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem, next ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. Motion to approve ordinance number 269E, 2021 budget amendment.
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Severs. Kyle, you want to give us just a brief overview of what we're looking at?
Yeah, sorry about that. So this ordinance accomplishes 2 things. It authorizes a transfer of $150,000 from the general fund to the Trailhead Improvements Fund for ongoing planning and design costs that'll get us through the end of the year. And then additionally, it does appropriate some ARP expenditures totaling $299,500 for various expenditures that are obviously ARP eligible.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the proposed budget amendment? Oh, I lost everybody's faces. There we go. No questions, comments? All right, then we'll move to public comment on ordinance 269E, amending the 2021 budget. Are there any public comments? Not seeing any hands. Todd, do you have anybody? Okay, not seeing or hearing any. So we will go ahead and take a vote. So all in favor of approving ordinance 269E, please raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and any opposed? Okay. Ordinance 269E passes 7-0. All right, our next item is emergency ordinances. There are none. Introduction of upcoming agenda items. Katie.
Okay, Mayor, so on October 5th, we will bring forward a contract to purchase winter de-icing products, a commercial brokers agreement for procurement of a restaurant at Trailhead. I won't include the public works yard in that scope of work by the commercial broker. A resolution to surplus some materials that we have. Jen is in charge of that. And so we're going to be surplusing some materials from the city. And then also the city administrator's job description, a resolution on that. As far as the workshops, I have 3. Actually, well, 3, I'll leave it at that. Rules and procedures that we didn't complete today. The ordinance review that the mayor covered related to confirmation of staffing positions. And then the CFP will pick up some of the information that Lisa wasn't able, we didn't get through tonight on the CFP. And then I will mention, I'm going to follow up on the social media question. I'm also going to follow up on lighting at our roundabouts. And I have some other notes here. Let's see, I think that's it.
Thank you, Katie.
Okay, now we are back to citizen comments. I do see that, thank you, John Harding, for bearing with us. Thanks for calling back in. Sometimes going for resistance in hearing more. So if you can star 6 to unmute yourself, we'll make sure you're unmuted on this end, and we will start your 3 minutes again. Make sure we can hear you. Can't hear you yet, so if you hit your star 6, that should do it. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Thanks, John.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to get into a concept that I think might be of value to us if we're concerned about trying to at least get a hold of the impact of our entire public safety system. My thought was that some leader in the community that would be either an elected official or a chief, a department head, a city manager, could have a cause of action, take it to a local judge. I think it would have to be in Superior Court for Spokane County, and ask for either a stay or an injunction to put a hold on the possible impacts from these people leaving their jobs. This is, this is a crisis just around the bend. And in the meantime, until we can get that done, at least collaborate with other functions and have a meeting, and it would have to be done with a sense of urgency. Right away. I think there would be value in talking to all the different Millwood, the Valley, perhaps, I don't know if the city would want to get involved in this or not, but and just collaborate together on what's coming. And I think even a union could have a cause of action as a labor dispute because it's a change in working conditions. This this vaccine issue. So I just want to lay that out there. See if there's some folks that have some different ideas, and those that are willing, stand up for the community and the people that they serve. I think this is a very critical issue that's going to impact us. And I hope there's other people in the community that feel the same way. So just wanted to get that out there.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much for coming back and joining us, and we will definitely stay in touch.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you. So just one more call for citizen comments? Yeah, Steve Peterson. Okay, sounds like we have Steve Peterson up again. Go ahead. Steve, we can't hear you if you're speaking. Are you sure that you had a second one? Oh,
Sorry.
there you go.
Having been mayor, that hired Ann Swenson as our city clerk back in 2007, December. I want to congratulate her on her stellar service to our community. That she was recognized by her peers for her abilities as the city clerk. And her shoes will be hard to fill, I can guarantee you. At the same time, I welcome Kelsey Wright aboard in this in her new responsibilities. I think that she will do well. I think that she has good support around her. And I think that Kelsey, if you're listening, you should call Ann if you need any help, because I think she's more willing to help you. So again, thank you guys. Thank you, Ann, for your service. Thank you, Kelsey, for joining the team.
Very much. Okay, any more citizen comments, Todd? Okay, looks like we are done with citizen comments. We do not have an executive session tonight. Is there any other business that anybody would like to bring up before we adjourn? Not seeing any, we will be adjourned. We'll see you next. We'll get the information out about the week of 11/2. We'll make that decision fairly shortly. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye, folks.
Even make it block.